What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of LTMB Live. This is Let the Madness Begin. As always, I am Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
Glad to be here with y'all today. This is March 19th, 2019. I'm about to say 2018. Not used to 2019 yet. Not yet, man. Not yet.
This is probably one of the first years I didn't write 2018 when I was writing down. Right? Yeah, when I was writing down like, you know, like a bank or like a bank deposit slip or like a bank withdrawal, account withdrawal slip.
Right.
Or anything, any other time I had to write the date. This is one of the first years I didn't write the previous year. But I had to kind of concentrate, be very focused on doing it.
All right, well, everybody, we are broadcasting on YouTube and Twitch and Periscope Live, so thank you to everybody that is following us tonight. And if you haven't already liked this video, please do that. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do that as well and click that bell so that you will get all of the newest content from LTMB as soon as it is dropped. So there is much to talk about tonight. We have a full show. We're gonna be talking about some bullying. You know, somebody decided to sue a bunch of people because of some bullying.
No, it's a serious situation.
It's very serious, man. And we're gonna treat it with all the seriousness that it requires. What else?
Yeah, because it's important when somebody gets their feelings hurt on the internet.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, like I said, we got to be serious about that. We do have a dummy of the day. We have an LTMB dummy of the day, no doubt. So it was close, actually. It was actually close between.
Because we probably had one that was kind of first in the running.
Yeah, and then something just
somebody
popped
else just kind of said, "Hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Let me get this.
I got this one."
Yeah. We're going to talk a lot about some Democratic presidential candidates. There's a lot of news concerning the Democratic presidential candidate, so we have a lot to talk about with that. But of course, we are going to begin with the tragedy that happened just last week on Friday. So let me cut this music off. Yeah, there we go. All right. So on Friday in Christchurch, New Zealand, a terrorist targeted two mosques. An armed terrorist targeted two mosques firing at its occupants, killing 50 and injuring 50 in the process. So a 28-year-old white Australian national has been charged with murder, been arrested and charged with murder for that deadly attack. There is a video from the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, that we wanted to show you. And this is just from, I believe it's from yesterday when she was announcing the charges.
A 28-year-old man, an Australian citizen, has been charged with 1 count of murder. Other charges will follow. He will face the full force of the law in New Zealand. The families of the fallen will have justice. He sought many things from his act of terror, but one was notoriety. And that is why you will never hear me mention his name. He is a terrorist, he is a criminal, he is an extremist, but he will, when I speak, be nameless. And to others I implore you, speak the names of those who were lost, rather than the name of the man who took them. He may have sought notoriety, but we in New Zealand will give him nothing, not even his name.
So definitely a strong response from the Prime Minister of New Zealand. I didn't note that during that deadly attack that took place in Christchurch, New Zealand, the attacker, the terrorist, he live streamed it on Facebook. So there was video of some of this attack, and it was definitely going around social media. There was a very widespread attempt to pull all those videos down. I don't know if it was a combined effort. I don't know. I heard over 1 million videos were taken down on social media, and that was between Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all the like.
I just don't know how much kind of effort, or how much effort would be required to keep the video from popping up, because it's not like I guess the resting place is the internet. The resting place is on people's hard drives and on people's phone.
Yeah.
So it's not like you upload a video and it disappears if it gets taken off the internet. So there would have to be a constant and ongoing effort to keep it off.
Well, the effort is just to stop sharing.
To stop sharing it.
These people's last moments in such a terrifying way.
Yeah, I definitely had no interest in watching it. That I'm not. No, I don't like disaster porn that involves actual death.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so no, it just didn't interest me.
It didn't interest me either. I did see a little bit of it though. I actually did see a little bit of it. It was, like I said, it was terrifying. It was disgusting. The individual, the terrorist, before the attack also, he seemingly left a manifesto online. And this manifesto was over 70 pages long, and it was titled The Great Replacement Manifesto. So it was the ramblings of somebody that was very racist and very delusional as well. That night that this happened, well, it was nighttime here in the United States of America. So I went through it. I went through the whole manifesto and read it, and there were several occurrences of just absolute delusion.
What stood out to you?
There were a few things that stood out to me. So first of all, this attacker, this terrorist, this is a white nationalist, ethno-nationalist, whatever you want to call him. He was a racist. And he believed that there was nothing really special about him. He said he was just an ordinary white guy from Australia, but that something needed to be done about the invaders that were coming into the country, immigrants that were coming into the country. And in this particular time, he was targeting Muslims. So throughout the entirety of his manifesto, he was urging other people to get involved and to kill other immigrants that are occupying these lands, their homelands. One thing that he said, He said, the invaders, this is a quote, the invaders must be removed from European soil, regardless from where they came or when they came. African, Indian, Turkish, Semitic, or other, if they are not of our people but live in our lands, they must be removed. So again, this is somebody, again, that he felt like there's too much immigration. He didn't believe, well, no, he did believe himself to be racist, but he didn't feel that he had a problem with other cultures, other people. He just had a problem with those people occupying what he determines, well, what he is believing is white land. So if a Jewish person is in Israel, he has no problem with them. If a black person is in Africa, he has no problem with them.
So he's totally disconnecting his worldview.
Yes.
From I guess his approach.
Yeah.
He's totally disconnecting the two. It's not that I'm doing this because I hate these people. It's just that, like, I believe these people should be gone. But he wouldn't believe those people should be gone if he didn't hate those people. Well, and he didn't believe there was something wrong with those people.
I guess the prevailing thought of his was he was concerned about white culture. So he didn't want to be replaced. Ergo, the name of the title, The Great Replacement Manifesto. He didn't want the white race to be replaced by immigrant races or other races of people. So he talked about, I believe this was many times throughout this manifesto, he talked about the white birth rate and how it's declining and how that's something that should definitely be paid attention to. And there's nothing that can be done about that significantly at this point to, I guess, hold back the replacement efforts. So what people have to do, what white people have to do, is kill immigrants. That's what they have to do.
See, even that is a distortion right there. Mm-hmm. The whole kind of replacement theory.
Yeah, it is.
Because yes, the birth rates are low, but the planet has always been dominated as far as like numbers and population by non-white people. Mm-hmm. Again, even in the manifesto, someone who has murdered over 50 people, someone who is very upfront and blatant about his beliefs is still essentially actually not being upfront about his beliefs. Right. Because if it's not really about replacement, it's about power. And so even him as someone who has extreme beliefs and who would go about expressing those extreme beliefs by murdering a bunch of people, still kind of has to be not so direct. Maybe it's indirectness based on him not understanding himself, or maybe it's just an indirectness because he doesn't want to fully and consciously recognize why he has those beliefs. Because it's obviously not about just being replaced per se. No. It seems to always be based on power.
Power. It'd have to be. It can't just be about race. He said, well, because a large portion of this manifesto was spent answering his own question. So there was one question he asked. He said, do you believe those you attacked were innocent? He answers, quote, there are no innocents in an invasion. All those who colonize other people's lands share guilt. So that's absolutely delusional, because he's thinking, because when he's talking about those who colonize other people's lands, and then in this sense, he's talking about Arab people. He's talking about Muslims. He's saying that Muslims are coming to colonize other lands. Like they're coming to colonize New Zealand. They're coming to colonize Australia. He talked about the United States of America too. That's a little bit delusional when he's a white person. White people, Europeans have customarily, historically, they have colonized many of the lands all across the nation. I mean, all across the globe,
including the country he committed this, mass murder in.
So if he is in like urging people to commit murder to get rid of the colonizers, he's missing something here.
Oh no, he's missing a big something. He's missing a big something. He's missing a big something. Essentially, like he doesn't understand that he's given license for some sort of retribution. Mm-hmm. He doesn't, but not for white people.
Not for white people.
So that is very ironic, because that includes New Zealand, that includes the United States, that includes Australia and other countries.
I know, delusional. He also says, this is another quote. He said, in every country, on every continent, those that are in the minority are oppressed. If you become a social, political, or ethnic minority, it will always lead to your oppression.
In interesting.
That's very interesting.
No, there's a lot within that. There's a lot within that. One, there's this kind of self-conscious guilt that whatever people who look like him did, that's kind of the standard everyone else operates on. That is some self-conscious guilt that there's going to be some sort of retribution based on what people who look like him did. That's a guilty conscience.
Yeah.
And two, again, it's kind of exposing like kind of what's going on inside of his consciousness as far as how
oppression.
As far as oppression.
Historically and currently.
So he's in some ways, I like this manifesto.
Yeah.
Because it's disgusting, but at the same time, it's kind of like revealing some hidden parts of himself. Now, it's not
that he is aware of those.
Yeah, he's not aware of. Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is kind of coming out like subversively, not directly. So he's revealing a lot about himself, and quite frankly, revealing a lot about himself that I've actually heard come from people who have not committed murder.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This idea that being afraid that you're going to be treated bad because you're a minority. Well, where does that come from? Right. You cannot have that fear unless there is something to connect it to. And what you connect it to is how minorities have been treated historically.
So he would have to be educated about that.
Yeah, exactly.
And he doesn't want that for himself and for white people.
Nah, he would have to be educated about that, not necessarily like, and what Will means by educated, not necessarily formally. No. He has to be educated by...
just knows about what's going on socially around the globe.
He's internalized all this. And most likely, he has both internalized the oppression of minorities. He both internalized it, right? And he's denied it, too. He's denying it and internalizing it at the same time.
Like I said, this dude is delusional. And he talked about Trump in one instance. He said that, I guess he had support for Trump and... Well, he supported Trump in one regard and he didn't support Trump in another. So he said of Trump that he was, quote, a symbol of renewed white identity and common purpose. But, quote, as a policymaker and leader, dear God, no.
Oh.
So he did not support Trump, the politician, somebody that was actually going to be effective as a leader. But as a racist bigot, xenophobic, he's all good with that part.
But you know what that means, though? Like... That's not really a knock on Trump to say that I don't.
No, it's not.
It's not really a knock on Trump to say that I'm not really down with his policy. It's pretty much saying that really doesn't matter to me.
No.
The only thing that matters to me is kind of how he superficially comes off.
Yeah.
And what kind of ideology and beliefs he gives power to. So that's really what it means. He wasn't knocking Trump. Yeah. He was just saying, I don't give a damn about his policy. Of course I don't agree with his policy because that doesn't matter.
Exactly. So after this attack had occurred, and of course it was being reported in the media, there was an Australian senator that wrote some very troubling things about it. And that Australian senator was Fraser Annan. And he wrote about this. He said that there was a real fear within the Australian and New Zealand communities about Muslim immigration. And he said, quote, the real cause of bloodshed on New Zealand streets today is the immigration program which allowed Muslim fanatics to migrate to New Zealand in the first place. So that's very bigoted language. This is a far-right politician. I believe he was elected in 2017. So he's, new to, I guess, politics, or at least on that stage. He's new to the scene in Australia. There's talk about him being censured already. But there was a video that's going around, and it definitely became viral. And that's of a 17-year-old boy that, like I said, he made some news about because of the way he responded to this certain senator talking that bigoted language. So we have that video to show you.
What I said was that a terribly unfortunate thing, a tragedy, but it's going to be eventually accepted or expected that these sort of things happen when people are getting attacked in their own.
Well, that's a typical method of kind of showing your disgust for people, throwing an egg at them.
He didn't throw it though.
But
he
yeah,
smashed it into his head.
Usually it happens like from a distance.
It does. But this dude got right close in person and smashed it. He didn't even like drop it. He smashed it on his head.
He smashed it on his head. And you know what, man? Like, I'm going to be very lenient here. Like, the first reaction, if someone hits you on side the head, your first reaction is to be like, oh, snap, I got to do something.
Right.
So I will give him the first punch.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think the young man expected that too. And I think the young man, and you can tell by his reaction, he did not react. He took that punch like a champ.
He did.
That young man took that punch like a champ. I think he expected it. And he did not, it didn't look like he had intentions to retaliate either, because he just kept holding his phone.
Yep.
Now
he just wanted to record it.
Now, where I think it kind of went too far is when he came after the kid. First reaction, I'm gonna give him a pass on, because I think a lot of people would have that same reaction. Like, what'd you just do? All right, I'm gonna punch you. Yeah. But then after the kid just stood there and stood back, and obviously still was not a threat, he came after the kid. Now that I'm like, all right, now you already had your reaction. Now keep on doing your interview. Yeah. You got used and you got punked. Get over it.
But he came after him, and then that caused the kid to kind of try to fight for himself. Yeah, and then that caused other people that were around to pretty much tackle him and lean on him until, I guess, the police arrived and they arrested him. Right. So the kid's name, his name is Will Connolly. Again, a 17-year-old kid. There has already been a GoFundMe that was started so that it would go towards the legal expenses of Connolly. And Connolly has stated that most of that money is going to go towards families of the victims of the tragedy in New Zealand.
See, perspectives.
He's a good kid, man.
Perspectives like I'm not even gonna name the dude. I'm gonna treat him like Tommy Larver. I'm not gonna say his name. But perspectives like that, the ones he shared about immigrants and the reasons why this massacre happened, would only make sense if the people that were murdered were the extreme he was talking about. And they're not. No. It still would be wrong, right? People taking it into their own hands to go about killing people, even if they are extreme. But that type of perspective would only make sense if the people that were murdered and killed were the extreme ones, and they weren't. Which tells me that he doesn't see a difference. He doesn't see a difference. And that's the problem.
So this is how President Trump responded to the attack. He spoke at the White House in front of reporters.
We see today white nationalism as a rising threat around the world. I don't really. I think it's a small group of people that have very, very serious problems. I guess if you look at what happened in New Zealand, perhaps that's a case. I don't know enough about it yet. They're just learning about the person and the people involved. But it's certainly a terrible thing. Terrible thing. Yes?
You see, Trump is never going to know enough to actually state that white nationalism is a problem. In Charlottesville, he didn't state that it was a significant problem. He actually said that there were nice people, some very fine people on both sides. So this is the way that President Trump is going to respond to situations like this. The Southern Poverty Law Center said that there was a 50% rise in white nationalist hate groups from the years 2017 to 2018. So hate crimes in general are up, but white nationalists, hate crimes and hate groups, they're on the rise as well. Trump doesn't want to acknowledge that publicly because he knows that those people support him. He knows he has given these sort of types of people the feeling of being emboldened by their actions, the feeling to be proud about what they stand for in public. It used to be that, of course, they were around. Of course, everybody knew that they were around, but you didn't see their actions publicized so often. Now you see them just about every day in some type of new video, calling somebody a nigger, saying something crazy, talking about white nationalism, talking about Muslims. You just see it all the time. And with Trump's talk about the border wall, this is a significant part of who he is as a man, who he is as a presidential candidate. Just before this incident, what was he doing? He was defending Jeanine Pirro, the Fox News host.
He wanted her back.
He wanted her back on the air. And he was chastising Fox News for taking her off the air because she espoused some very bigoted language about Muslims. This is just who he is.
I think it's important that we look at kind of how he responds to these events, or events like these, compared to his rhetoric in regard to other topics. And you mentioned the border. That's a topic that involves, I guess, Mexicans and any other immigrant from any South American country. Now, how does he describe Mexicans?
Well, before he came into office, he described them as rapists, criminals,
thieves. They steal, they're freeloaders, all that. And it's not just actually Trump doing that.
No.
It's not just Trump.
He didn't begin that language.
Yeah, he didn't begin that language, so we can't just put it on him. No. But, the point should be made that it's not above him, or he is never at a loss for words when it comes to describing certain groups of people. And describing certain groups of people regardless of the facts, right? So even though the facts line up in this case, he still can't seem to unzip his mouth to talk about a significant problem. But when it comes to the crisis at the border, even though the data and the information, the numbers don't match up with his rhetoric, he still goes forth with describing certain groups of people. So we know he's not above doing that, but he still does it. So when he talks about a small group, that's just a problem. A small group, that's just a problem.
Just a problem.
Just a problem.
Again, this is the same guy we didn't even mention who was really an integral part of the whole birther movement. This is who Donald Trump is as a president. So, or not as a president, just as a man, as a person. So him not owning up to the rise or what white nationalism is, white supremacy is, that's just expected. But yeah, like I said, this whole situation is definitely sad.
Other than kind of, I guess his personal, I guess, way of dealing with the crisis of immigration and non-white people invading white countries. Other than like his tactic of killing people, what was so unique about the manifesto? To me, that's really the only unique part. There's really nothing extraordinary about the manifesto that we haven't heard already. I just thought it was interesting to see people tweet and hear people like Ben Shapiro talk about how don't share the manifesto, don't share it, it's scary. Now, when you read the manifesto, views like that are pretty widespread.
Yeah, it is.
Other than like the killing part and him going about it, handling that problem the way he did, most of those views are pretty widespread and kind of mimic things we hear every day.
Right. Other than the urging other people to step up and get involved in the killing of immigrants. Yeah, the ideology of this
replacement theory, white genocide,
it's something that
birth count going down.
Yeah.
It's something that's pretty common. So it's like, so sharing the manifesto, it's not adding some new dialogue to this conversation.
No. All right, so let's move on. Democratic presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke is
you can't even,
boy hit like the ground running.
It's
Beto
like,
O'Rourke.
O'Rourke. It's hard to say his name, man.
His campaign has hit the ground running. Okay, so after 24 hours of his candidacy, Beto O'Rourke. See, you got me all messed up now. See, I think I was fine before. Anyway, Beto O'Rourke, he raised $6.1 million in just the 24 hours since he announced his candidacy. Now that trumps Bernie Sanders just under $6 million that he totaled. So Beto O'Rourke was telling some truth when he said that his campaign was the best grassroots campaign that the nation has ever seen. And I guess this means that all the money that he was able to raise in his Senate race, I think it was some $80 million that he raised for his Senate race. I guess that can be, I guess that's the same thing nationally. Like he had that same amount of support.
He has that same fervor.
Texas, and he had the same type of support nationally as well.
He's built that same amount of fervor.
Yeah.
Even though he's polling at 5%.
Yeah.
So I would say that is very impressive. Even though he was like in 5th or 6th place. Yeah. And he was polling at 5%. He got them bags. He came away with them bags. It's a miracle. I say it's a miracle.
A miracle. Now, he did say that he received contributions from every single state in the union. But there was something that was missing from this windfall that he was able to raise, the $6.1 million. And that was a detailed account of the average amount of contribution and how many total contributions that he got. That information was left out. Now, I believe this was at a campaign stop he did at a bar.
Yeah, he was at a he was at a bar. He
was standing on the bar.
Was like, it was a Coyote Ugly inspired.
Oh yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, I believe outside, he was fielding some questions, and there was one question that he fielded about the total amount of contribution, the average amount of contributions, when are you going to release that information? And he had a very interesting type of reply.
Yes, he did. The first question somebody asked him, and his first response was, "I can't right now." And actually somebody to the side actually was like, what does that even mean? That doesn't make sense. Because one guy asked him directly, like, why don't you just share your the details of these contribution amounts? Yeah. And he says, "I can't right now." Those were his words. Right. I can't. Then somebody else who's off camera was like, wait a second. Some other reporter was like, wait a second. Like, what does that even mean? That doesn't make sense. And Beto responds, let me answer it better. I choose not to. Right there, he told on himself. What he is saying is, I have the information. I know exactly how these contributions came and what increments they came in, who they came from, what the average donation is, what the total amount of people who donated to my campaign, but I choose not to reveal or disclose that information. Your boy told on himself. Now, does that seem shady to you at all? Does that seem just a little bit shady? Because please tell the LTMB audience how he has presented this presidential run.
Again,
what has he presented this presidential run as? What does he define it as?
The best grassroots campaign ever.
Okay.
Ever.
Okay.
Now, see, when we talk about grassroots campaign, we always highlight Bernie Sanders' candidacy back in 2016, and you can say the same thing about going on to 2020. Now, Bernie Sanders had no qualms with releasing the amount of total contributors, average amount that was contributed, and other candidates as well have revealed that same information. So for Beto O'Rourke not to reveal that information, like, why would somebody do that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, your boy was so hyped in his speech.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you up on the bar, playing like...
A lot of energy.
Like, he's playing like the I don't know, the floor is lava game or something. Yeah. Like, you would think he would be just as excited to reveal the contributor count.
Because you would be proud of that. You would be proud of the $6.1 million because he highlighted that. So he's proud of that mark. But you would be similarly proud of the total amount of contributors because of this grassroots campaign.
You would want to let everybody know.
Everybody, right? You say everybody.
Everybody.
Now, and also, since this is a grassroots campaign, there's no corporate PAC money. So you would want everybody to know, look at all these small donations that I have. See, these aren't giant donations from big business, big oil and big gas. And no, these are just regular people that believe in my candidacy. why wouldn't you let the people know how great your candidacy is?
I think we got our answer.
Yeah, I think we did.
We got our answer.
I choose not to.
I choose.
Direct quote, not our words. Direct quote. I choose not to.
That is a direct quote. I choose not to, which kind of makes it look a bit shady.
Yeah, just a little bit.
How about this? It's going to be revealed.
Yeah.
It's going to be revealed probably in a couple of months once
Right.
once the FEC reports come out.
Yeah.
It's going to be revealed. I hope it's revealed.
Oh, it's going to be revealed. It's going to be revealed. It's just not going to be right now.
One thing that jumps out at me is an article that was posted on CNBC the day he announced he was running for president, which was Thursday morning, right? It was last Thursday morning, the day of our show. And the headline on the report reads, former Obama bundler reaching out to top Democratic Party donors to get support for Beto O'Rourke's 2020 candidacy. And it has some bullet points that list details as to who the bundler is, which is Louis Sussman, and his connection with Obama and Democratic fundraising. So I thought that was kind of ironic.
This will all be sussed out. It'll be sussed out eventually.
Was that a wait a second? Was that a pun? Was that purposeful? I said Louis Sussman.
No, maybe it just occurred to me. Like I didn't mean to, but yeah. But yeah, this will all be revealed in time.
One thing, what there's a narrative that's being pushed that probably needs to be squashed too, about the where the money came from. That really it can't be verified.
Right. Okay. So there's a narrative going on about right before the end of Biden's Senate race. He transferred millions of dollars to. Well, I think it was just over $4 million, something like that.
Yeah.
He transferred millions of dollars to the Democratic Party in Texas. So there's a narrative going around that Democratic Party in Texas actually just gave him back the funds, and there's no evidence to suggest that would be illegal. There's just no. There's nothing on record that suggests that
there's
happened.
no like official FEC reports.
No, that would be illegal. That would be a huge story. So if that actually did happen, I believe that would be found out in some months.
But what does it really mean though? Like even if since he did raise more money, what does it really mean at the end of the day? You see what I'm saying?
Well, it would depending on the total amount of contributors, it would speak to just how strong his candidacy is. How many people actually believe in him right away, quickly. Like, this is my guy.
True.
It would speak to that.
Yeah, I saw a lot of kind of Bernie bashers on Twitter, like issuing tweets like, how is Bernie Sanders supporters going to spend this? How are they going to spend this? And I'm just like, I think the context behind both of these candidates is a lot different as far as how they've been treated in the media. For the most part, the corporate media has treated Bernie Sanders kind of like a pariah in a way, kind of always throwing smoke in his direction, kind of dismissing his platform as extreme. Now, as far as Beto O'Rourke goes, the corporate media has kind of like anointed him as the golden child, the supreme compromiser or supreme pragmatist. So they've both been getting a little bit of different treatment by the corporate media. So the context behind them is a lot different. I don't think there's a progressive out there that did not assume that Beto O'Rourke was going to get a big grip of money. Nobody, I think we all assumed that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's about the amount of donations or the amount of money, but the amount of contributors and their platform. So I don't think Bernie Sanders supporters have to spin this at all because we are judging both of them according to their substance.
Right. I think Beto, no matter what his total contributors are, no matter what that average amount of his donation is, Beto, I think, is a little bit dangerous, though, because I believe that he does have some charisma that is appealing to a lot of people, right? He has energy that's appealing to a lot of people. Now, I don't believe in his candidacy. I don't believe in this idea that he is a progressive. He bills himself as a progressive. his voting record is definitely questionable. It's not the worst. It's definitely not the best. And the last show that we were talking about, I talked about how I didn't feel like he was coming off as disingenuous. In that video, I still don't believe he came off as disingenuous, just with the energy and stuff. I just think that's who he is. But
sitting with his wife?
Yeah.
Oh, true that.
I don't believe that was disingenuous. I don't believe like that was fake. I just believe that's how he is. Now, what he wants to get done, the things that he is saying that he wants to get done, now there's where I believe that he's actually being disingenuous. Because if you do look at his track record, you look at who he's cozying up with, and I just don't believe in Beto O'Rourke as a candidate. All right, so let's get to another Democratic presidential candidate, and that is Elizabeth Warren. So Senator Elizabeth Warren had a town hall on CNN on Monday night. And for the most part, it was, I would say for the most part, it was a good look for her. She did come off as impressive in several of the questions that she answered. So I believe she was very good on immigration, voting rights. She talked about Confederate memorials and how she would want those taken down. She talked about the Mississippi state flag, which is the only flag left in the United States that has the Confederate flag on it. So there were several parts of this town hall that she came off as good. We have a couple clips that we want to show you. The first clip is she's responding to a question about slavery and reparations.
The impact of discrimination handed down from one to the next means that today in America, because of housing discrimination, because of employment discrimination, we live in a world where for the average white family has $100, the average black family has about $5. So I believe it's time to start the national, full-blown conversation about reparations in this country. And that means I support the bill in the House to appoint a congressional panel of experts, of people who are studying this, who talk about different ways we may be able to do it, and to make a report back to Congress so that we can, as a nation, do what's right and begin to heal. Thank you. Thank you.
Senator, if I could just follow up on George's question. You've said you're open to a conversation about reparations to the descendants of slaves and also to Native Americans. You also said, might that include direct payments, direct financial transfer of money?
So there are a lot of ways to think about how reparations should be formed. And I notice George's question actually started with just the frame of an apology, right? With the frame of a national recognition. We have a lot of experts around the country, a lot of activists who have a whole lot of different approaches to it. And I think the best we can do right now, I love the idea of this congressional commission. Let's bring people together and let's open that conversation as Americans. Let's see what ideas people want to put on the table and let's talk them through. Because I got to tell you, ignoring the problem is not working.
So look, she was not very specific about what she wanted to get done. This was something like that we have seen from Kamala Harris and Julian Castro.
Cory Booker said some things about it too.
Yeah, how they believe in the idea of redressing the evil institution of slavery, implementing this like this task force, this congressional board to talk about it.
Kind of similar to Castro.
Yeah, same thing. Like get minds together, because look, we do have to agree, or we do have to acknowledge that there are a lot of different approaches to the idea of reparations. What is that going to look like? So she doesn't seem to have an idea of exactly what her path forward is. So she could definitely be criticized on that. I do think that in this long answer to that question, though, she came off a little well. It was again, you can criticize her for not having a clear plan, but it does seem like she actually wants to address it. So I would put her, like her answer, I would put that above somebody like Julian Castro's, even if it's not clear.
I think I would only put her answer above Castro's if she is questioned about something specific in regard to reparations, and that's the one-time checks.
Well, she answered that, and she didn't have an answer.
That's my thing.
Yeah, she did not have an answer for that.
That's my thing. If she doesn't have an answer, that means she probably doesn't want to be held accountable for that answer, which I don't blame her for.
Right.
But see, now what I'm talking about is the standard that has already been set. You see what I'm saying? That is the standard. It's not just some sort of, hey, we'll review this stuff. First of all, what the hell is there to review? Think about that. What is there to review? You've already acknowledged it. Like,
the only thing is, again, the exact way forward, because a lot of people have different ideas about what reparations is going to look like or what that is. So that would be the thing to review, because look, she made it clear. You can believe her or not, but she made it clear that, like her last statement, she said that ignoring this problem is not going to make it go away. So we have to do something. We have to get some minds together to talk about how are we going to address this situation. Again, she's not clear about how that's going to happen.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's going to be on the top of the list as far as priority.
Hell no.
I
Do you think it's going to be at the top of the list for any of these candidates?
I don't think it's going to be at the top of the list for any candidate. I just
Well,
think that
maybe one.
yeah, I'll say
Marianne Williamson.
Yeah. Sorry, maybe one. I think that it's only become a topic because it's kind of been pushed into the discussion, pushed into the discourse. So they are compelled to talk about it. They're almost forced to talk about it.
Right.
So, I mean, I won't really take a position as far as judging how each candidate is addressing this until they are on the stage together and have to bounce like ideas off of one another.
Right. All right. So the next clip we have, this is about healthcare. Elizabeth Warren was asked about universal health care and why Medicare would be a good option for workers. So Warren began by saying that the first thing that we have to do is protect and defend the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. And I totally agree with that, because if we're honest, universal health care, Medicare for all, single payer type program is not going to come like that. It's going to take some years to actually occur. It's going to take some years for it to be implemented. So for right now, we definitely do need the ACA to remain intact, and we need people that have insurance under that program to keep having that insurance. We don't want it dismantled. All right. That's what a lot of our opinions are. The second thing she said was addressing the low-hanging fruit. She described it as the low-hanging fruit. What she was talking about was bringing down prescription drug costs. And again, I agree with that as well, because I've seen many people that I've come into contact with because of the work that I have done that can't afford their prescription drugs. So it's a definite problem. She said that, one thing we can do is import the drugs from Canada because they have the same type of safety standards. We can allow Medicare to negotiate prices. So again, with that, I was totally with her. So then after that, that's when she addressed the Medicare for all. And so we have that clip to show you.
Then when we talk about Medicare for all, there are a lot of different pathways. What we're all looking for is the lowest cost way to make sure everybody gets covered. And some folks are talking about, let's start lowering the age. Maybe bring it down to 60, 55, 50. That helps cover people who are most at risk and can be helpful, for example, to the labor's plans. Some people say do it the other way. Let's bring it up from everybody under 30 gets covered by Medicare. Others say let employers be able to buy into the Medicare plans. Others say let's let employees buy into the Medicare plans. For me, what's key is we get everybody at the table on this, that labor's at the table, that people who have to buy on their own, everybody comes to the table together, and we figure out how to do Medicare for all in a way that makes sure that we're going to get 100% coverage in this country at the lowest possible cost for everyone. That's our job.
So,
Good.
If I could just follow up a little on Jay's question. So you are a co-sponsor of Senator Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill. And I understand there are a lot of different paths to universal coverage. But his bill that you've co-sponsored would essentially eliminate private insurance. Is that something you could support?
He's got a runway for that. I think we get everybody together And that's what it is. We'll decide. I've also co-sponsored other bills, including expanding Medicaid is another approach that we use. But what's really important to me about this is we never lose sight of what the center is, because the center is about making sure that every single person in this country gets the coverage they need and that it's at a price that they can afford. We start with our values, we'll get to the right place.
So theoretically, though, there could be a role for private insurance companies under President Warren.
Or there could be a temporary role. Even Bernie's plan has a runway before it gets there. Because it's a big and complex system. And we've got to make sure that we land this in a way that doesn't do any harm. Everybody has got to stay covered. It's critical.
All right, man. What you got to say about that, man? You don't seem too impressed with that answer, man. I can feel it coming.
That is unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable. This is somebody, Senator Elizabeth Warren, that is a co-sponsor of Bernie Sanders' legislation, single payer, Medicare for all. The legislation is not ambiguous. It's not ambiguous. Yes, it's not ambiguous at all. It's not like, hey, maybe we should do this, or maybe we could do this, or maybe we have another idea. No, it's about single payer. Now, the point that she was making about private insurers, you know, with Elizabeth Warren as president, could private insurers still have a role? It doesn't matter who's the president, Bernie Sanders or whatever. They will still have a role. But if we're talking about just comprehensive healthcare coverage, no, there's no reason to have private health companies in that business whatsoever. So Medicare for all, I thought that she was one of those that understood that Medicare for all single payer meant that there's going to be one option, okay? Of course, it's going to come at a cost for all people. Of course it will. But we won't have to pay for premiums. We won't have to pay for deductibles. We won't have to pay for co-pays. We won't have to pay anything at the point of service.
So you have to ask yourself, kind of, why did she answer that? Because it just seemed like, to me, like she was trying to hedge her bets.
It does seem
because
like
if you're
that.
signed on to Medicare for all, then why would you hedge your bets like that?
Why would you be a co-sponsor but say, there's many good ideas out there. I'm a co-sponsor of many different ideas.
I think we know the answer to that.
Because she doesn't want to do it.
She doesn't want to do what? She doesn't want to, I guess, put herself out there in the same way that Bernie Sanders has.
Absolutely
because
not.
you see what kind of, backlash Bernie Sanders gets. You see what he gets called.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
So it was okay when he presented the legislation, and when you had somebody like Cory Booker, and you had somebody like Kamala Harris, and you had somebody like Kirsten Gillibrand, they all signed up for this. They were like, yeah, we're going to co-sponsor this legislation. And we were thinking, my goodness, look how times have changed, because in 2016, nobody was riding with Bernie on Medicare for all single payer. Nobody was. But now they're all co-opting his message. But we have some of these same candidates that are now running for office, and they won't be as adamant about single payer now.
She's worried about the general election. She's worried about the general election, but still trying to be appealing to progressives. But she's trying to worry about. You see that's what she's trying to do.
Riding on that fence.
She's trying
to
ride the fence.
Nah, it's
but
not working.
Like, you just think about keeping the private insurance industry. Like, even if you tightly regulate it, it won't matter. Like, and it won't work, because, like, what is their purpose in being in that business? Their purpose is to gain capital, right?
Yep.
So essentially, like, you're telling them to work against their own interest, which they will never do, no matter how tightly you regulate them. Yeah. Now, when it comes to this question about private insurance, right, there's always like, well, you're going to get rid of private insurance, and that's kind of like seen as very extreme. But since we're talking about this Medicare for all, model, like, wouldn't you look towards those other countries, right, to determine like how private insurance should be regulated if it's still here? So if we're going to talk about whether private insurance stays, why not look at how the countries that already do have a single payer system or Medicare for all system kind of structure their private insurance. And from what I've read, it's not structured in the same way. It's almost structured like a nonprofit. And so they have, it's referred to as like a social insurance model, where it's not set up like car insurance. You see what I'm saying? And it's almost set up like Social Security.
Right.
So it's almost like it's a public system that's privately administered. You know what I'm saying? So, and also in those systems, the prices are kind of strictly set too and strictly fixed.
This was a bad look for Senator Elizabeth Warren, a very bad look. And you know what, this was one area where I didn't expect her to fall on. I really didn't expect her to fall on this because, again, she's a co-sponsor of the legislation. You would think that if you were so willing to be out front about your need or about the country's need to embark on the journey of single payer, then that would follow you into your campaign for president. But we see that is not the case. So, no, not a good look. Not a good look for Warren. All right, so let's talk about another Democratic presidential candidate, Andrew Yang. So Andrew Yang, who recently announced that he has crossed the threshold to be on the debate stage. The first debate set to be in June. He has over 65,000 contributors. So that is very good news. And we have reported on his campaign last week. He just did an interview with the crew at Breakfast Club. So we talked about that last week. And we do believe in his candidacy. On Twitter recently, he said something that I, for one, did not agree with. So on Twitter, he recently said, "The problem with deciding presidential elections via popular vote is that candidates would naturally campaign in urban areas with big media markets and their policies would follow suit. Better to have proportional electoral college votes in each state so you campaign everywhere."
I think that's a contradiction. He is saying that like people's approach and candidates' approach should be proportional. He just said that, right? If it's proportional, then those people campaign where most American people live.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So you would campaign mostly in large areas of people, where large areas of people live.
And unfortunately, there's this assumption that, like, the people, like, I guess the places that people don't tend to visit a lot are somehow not being represented. I think that's the assumption there as well.
I think that's a false narrative.
That's a false narrative.
Yeah. We will still have, if the Electoral College was actually replaced with just a popular vote, we would still have primaries and caucuses during primary and caucus season. So they would still have to go to the states to campaign for these votes. That's one. But two, I always have a problem with this idea of protecting the Electoral College, because in the model that we have under the Electoral College, my voice is muted. My voice is not as valuable in South Carolina as it would be in the state of New York or in the state of California. Why should that be? Why shouldn't my voice and my vote be as valuable as anybody else's, no matter where they live in the entire country?
Why? It's interesting how that was missing from his analysis.
I don't understand that.
I just thought that was weird that was missing, as if there are not individuals in red states that feel the same way, that they are not represented.
Exactly. I don't understand this. I understand that Republicans would not want to embark on this type of journey to get rid of the Electoral College, because think about this, okay? In the last 7 presidential elections, the GOP candidate has won the popular vote once, and that was George W. Bush in 2004 against John Kerry. And I can actually explain that victory because of the Iraq War. A lot of people voted for him because they thought he was the man for the job. They believed in his toughness, his character. They wanted him to get us out. They just wanted a win in the Iraq war. No matter what information we had about what we should have known before, about the weapons of mass destruction that was not there. I mean, it doesn't matter. People weren't listening to that. They really just believed in, I guess, the character of George W. Bush. But that was the only election in the last 7 cycles, presidential cycles, where the Republican candidate won. So this tells me one thing. If we got rid of the Electoral College, I think one of 3 things would happen. One, the GOP candidate would have to win every historically conservative state and every swing state. 2, they would have to come back to the center and stop being the party of the far right extremists. Or 3, they would be swept into the dustbin of history. That's the only 3 options, because there are more people that are in the center or center left than there are conservatives. And we have seen that throughout the course of this modern day history. So it makes sense that they wouldn't want to dismantle the Electoral College.
And this is essentially talking about just federal elections.
This is just federal elections.
Okay, like, wouldn't local politics still exist in these states?
They would.
Whether it be like South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. These what I call meadow states.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? These plains,
right.
these states that are full of uninhabited land. But regardless of their population count, wouldn't local politics still exist? Wouldn't how they engage in local politics still have an impact on their lives? You see what I'm saying? Like, they would still get to vote on, I don't know, like solicitor, city council, sheriff, superintendent, judges. They'd still get to vote on things that affect their life in their state. And so it's not just about these federal elections, right? No, so it's not like their lives are going to go forward without having any say in how they're affected. You know what I'm saying? So,
and so there's also a narrative out there about, and somebody commented on Twitter about this, that they were concerned that the large populated areas would just, again, they would dominate the elections, and after they voted, the media would call the race. But see, to that I say, we have time zones, okay? In California and Texas, those are the 2 most populous states in the United States of America. Nothing is being called until Texas is counted. I mean, Texas and California is counted. And California is 3 hours behind us. There's nothing being called before they are counted. So that's 1, okay? But 2 is, I remember being in line in South Carolina. The race has already been called for the Republican, because this is a dark red state. I remember being in line. The race has already been called. Why am I still in line? Why am I even voted? Of course, I stayed in line to have my voice counted, or my vote counted, but it made no sense.
Just to be on the record.
Just to be on the record, but it made no sense. My voice and my vote is muted because I'm in a red state. That should not be. And another thing about the Electoral College, if we're going to have the Electoral College nationally, why don't we have it for states as well? Because we have separate counties. And when you're talking about a governor, that's like the president of the state. You can't consider it any other way. The governor is a president of that state. So why not separate the counties up, and be like, okay, well, this county is going to get this many Electoral College votes and this many. Why wouldn't you do it like that?
Now that I think of it, we kind of already do compartmentalize counties as far as policy goes in certain ways. There's certain taxes that only apply to certain counties, right? Yeah. There's always these initiatives on the ballot that only apply to certain municipalities and certain cities and or certain counties. So there's already some compartmentalization that goes on in local politics. So that's a good point.
Look, the Electoral College makes no sense whatsoever. I understand why conservatives, Republicans would not advocate for it whatsoever, because they don't want to be swept into the ash heap of history. But for liberals to do it, I just don't understand it.
And what does like when the race is being called or how soon it's being called have to do with the final results in the first place?
Well, the narrative is that
the perception.
Well, the perception, and if the race is called, then that would take people out of lines voting in other areas. But again, California is 3 hours behind us.
But again, that has to do with the media.
That
doesn't have to do with the system. That has to do with how the media reports it. That's not. There's nothing you can do about that.
Oh, but yeah, some other news though too. Colorado, they recently became the latest state planning to allocate their electoral college votes to the candidate that wins the national popular vote. So this will only go into effect. This bill will only go into effect if enough states actually passes this type of legislation, and those states collectively amount to 270 electoral college votes. So the other states that have already done this is Rhode Island, Vermont, Hawaii, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, Washington, New Jersey, New York, Illinois, California, and the District of Columbia. And so with the inclusion of Colorado now, that number, the electoral college vote, sits at 181. New Mexico could be the next state. I believe it was last week that it passed the state Senate, this type of legislation. So we're still a long way from this type of reality, because you would have to have some of these swing states actually implement this type of legislation. And that's going to be a hard task, because we know that in a lot of these swing states, Republicans at least control one chamber of the houses. And might have a Republican governor as well. So it's going to be a tall order, but like I said, I think this is the right way to go. We need to go to popular vote. The electoral college is insanity. I never understood its meaning at all and why it's good for elections. All right. Another Democratic presidential candidate. All right. So Senator Kirsten Gillibrand has now entered the 2020 Democratic presidential race. So earlier, this was weeks ago, Senator Gillibrand announced an exploratory committee. And I think a lot of people assumed that she was already running for president. So this was news like, well, when you already did this. But no, she formally announced her candidacy.
Yeah, she's been at all these events and stuff.
Yes,
I've
she
seen.
has, yeah.
Posted it on Twitter and whatnot on our Facebook page.
Yeah. So she has a campaign video, her introductory campaign video, and we would like to show you just a portion of that.
Our anthem calls America the home of the brave. But we don't realize that the lyrics first pose it as a question. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? It asks, will brave win? Well, it hasn't always, and it isn't right now. Brave doesn't pit people against each other. Brave doesn't put money over lives. Brave doesn't spread hate, cloud truth, build a wall.
Children can be separated and sent.
That's what fear does. We need to remember what it feels like to be brave. When I voted against the Wall Street bailout while both parties threw billions at the banks, when I took on the Pentagon to end sexual assault in the military, when I turned a red district blue against all odds, when I challenged Congress by making my meetings, finances, and taxes public so people could see I was working for them, I took your lead. I chose brave too. Our anthem asks a question, forcing every generation to make a choice. Will brave win?
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 Will brave win? Let's answer for ours.
All right. Honestly, I don't care what she said past the first 10 seconds. You know where I'm going. I'm going.
Because of what she recited. Because what she's kind of basing her kind of campaign slogan off of.
She based her whole campaign slogan off of the Star-Spangled Banner. She said, will brave win? And she pointed to the words in the Star-Spangled Banner. This was written by Francis Scott Key, who was a slave owner, who was an attorney who argued on behalf of slave owners when they were trying to get their slaves back because they ran away. This was a man who described black people as an inferior race. She's pointing to the words of Francis Scott Key to signal the inclusiveness. Yeah,
you're right, inclusiveness. But
of her campaign and about how we have to be brave and do the right thing in the United States of America.
Maybe she's trying to take back ownership and reappropriate that word and reappropriate, I guess, the original meaning of that song. Maybe she's just trying to take it back and be brave. Now,
no, you know, hold on.
Oh, see, I keep saying be brave. Why do I keep saying that? Because it's not be brave.
It's not be brave. It's will brave win.
Will brave win. I keep saying be brave. Now, why do I keep saying that? Because what does it remind you?
Be best.
It reminds me. Yes, it reminds me of Melania. And you know what? I give Melania a pass. I give Melania a pass on that.
Yeah, you have to.
I don't think she wanted to be first lady. She doesn't seem interested. She always is hiding in the cut somewhere.
All right.
Never making appearances.
Right.
And English is not her first language. I wouldn't expect her to come up with anything like catchy. You know what I'm saying? Something that people can latch on to. So be best. I give Melania a pass. It's different though. She's not a politician either.
Be brave.
Or
will brave win?
See, will brave win?
Yeah.
Like,
what is that gonna do? What kind of slogan is that, or what kind of like strategy is that?
It's like,
what does it call for?
It's the milquetoast version of Make America Great Again.
Yeah,
because like you said, like you described the whole Make America Great Again campaign slogan as something that was designed to have people fill in the blanks themselves, because it really doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
So people take all of their desires and project it onto that slogan, regardless of what it is. And I think that's what she's expecting to do here. Brave wins, like...
Yo, aren't these white nationalists brave?
They consider themselves brave. That's what I'm saying. It's just so ambiguous. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't like... She tries... like very hard to connect it to things specific. Yeah. And you know, you saw
I was brave when I took on the banks, and I was brave when whatever. I don't care.
Don't you
I don't care.
I really like the whole like the Blair Witch shaking of the camera part, the little Blair Witch shit. I was like, nah.
She said, I chose brave too.
Yo, y'all didn't hear it because we were muted as the video was playing, but like when she said that, your boy just busted out with this like high pitched laugh.
I chose brave too. Again, assume that I wrote just a bunch of like if I wrote an article that was peppered with racist insults, but then there was one significant part where it was like uplifting. Would you just cut my words out that you can like feel good about and be like, yeah, okay, we can celebrate these words right here. You know, these other words he wrote, we don't want to touch down. But these little words right here, yeah, we can get behind that. That can become the national anthem for this great country of the United States of America. That's what people are wanting us to do with the Star Spangled Banner. It wasn't written for black people. It was written against the runaway slaves that actually joined the British Army because they were promised their freedom. And Senator Kirsten Gillibrand leads off her candidacy with that piece of garbage. This is tone deaf to a magnificent degree. All right. Another Democratic presidential candidate we're going to talk about.
Oh, man. This is man.
Tulsi Gabbard. So, we've talked about Tulsi Gabbard
quite a bit.
Yeah, several times on this program.
Yeah, we've had a lot of pushback.
Yeah,
how
no
we
doubt.
Talk about her.
No doubt. And look, there's definitely some aspects to her candidacy that we like. You know, I believe that you can. I believe that you can call her progressive. I believe you can call her progressive.
Yeah, in many cases.
Yeah, in many cases.
Yeah, even though I think there's some things that we believe are problematic about her.
No doubt.
Yeah, I think she still is there.
Yeah, I would put her in the top third of the candidates that are running. I believe so. I think I would put her in the top third of candidates that are running. I would put Andrew Yang, Bernie Sanders, Marianne Williamson above her. That might be it. That might be it. That actually might be the candidates that I put above her. That might be it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. But again, like Mike said, there are some problems that we have had with her. And recently she tweeted about Donald Trump and about Russia. Let's just show you the tweet. So she said, short-sighted politicians and media pundits who spent last 2 years accusing Trump as a Putin puppet have brought us the expensive new Cold War and arms race. How? Because Trump now does everything he can to prove he's not Putin's puppet, even if it brings us closer to nuclear war.
That's interesting. There's a lot of assumptions in there. Assumptions about Trump. Her logic rests on the assumption that Trump is actually in control, number one. Another assumption is that Trump himself understood how much power he'd have once he got into office, which is most likely the case. We all see how he operates now, and he's like he tries to strong arm things through, and the latest with this emergency declaration resolution, and how 12 Republicans went against him. So what did he do? He vetoed it. So again, it's to Trump, he probably thought that he was going to have more power. The other assumption is that Trump was going to be loyal to whomever he made deals with, which to me is antithetical to what we know Trump to be based on his own history. So whatever deals he makes, as far as his businesses go with Russia, Saudi Arabia, or China, which he does have business interest with, there's this assumption that he is going to remain a loyal player and a fair player. Do you see what I'm saying? To those individuals and those leaders of those countries. So there's this assumption that if he does something against those leaders or those individuals, that it automatically means he has no loyalty to them. But to get to the main logic, she's saying that don't accuse Trump of doing bad things because he'll do other bad things to prove that he is innocent of the bad things you initially accused him of.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
No. I really can't explain this. You did your best just now. I really can't explain it. Just like you said, the media and political pundits, politicians, they may suggest things about Trump because of his behavior, maybe because of his words, that he may be in the pocket of Russia. He may be doing things because of something about Russia. And because of that, he's going to try to prove you wrong by doing horrible things. And then she points to the arms race. There's a new arms race, I guess, between the United States and Russia, which I'm not aware of. We have significant arms. We have nuclear arms. They have significant arms. They have nuclear arms.
They've always had it.
I don't understand where this new arms race logic is coming from. I really don't understand this. It doesn't.
I think that comes from the sanctions and Putin being upset about the sanctions that we put on him,
right? And
then pulling out of the nuclear agreement.
Right.
That's what that's about.
So it's because of political pundits.
But that's not. But the sanctions have always been there. That has nothing to do with the whole Russiagate. The sanctions have always been there. That was there before Trump became president. So that those two things don't have anything to do with each other. But again, like if you are innocent of something, right? You wouldn't. Let's just say that's true. What she's talking about, like you wouldn't have to go to such lengths if you're innocent, right? If you're innocent of something, you don't have to go to such lengths to prove that you're not guilty. Why would you need to do that? Why would you? You know what? In order to prove I'm not, I have no, financial interest in this country or no financial connection to this leader of this other country, and he has nothing on me. I'm gonna start a nuclear arms race to prove that. It doesn't even make sense.
I'm gonna apply sanctions.
I'm gonna apply sanctions.
Just because of that. Just because I'm not in the pocket of Russia.
I just don't think that. I just don't think that makes sense.
And actually, the sanctions haven't come from the behest of Donald Trump.
They haven't. Actually,
Congress has wanted the sanctions.
Congress has wanted the sanctions, and Trump has not wanted the sanctions. Trump has not agreed that the sanctions were valid at all. So I don't know. I don't understand like what point is she's making. Think about this. Like, it's hard to like create some analogous situation. It really is, to show how ridiculous her take is. Like, what if a district office administrator was embezzling money from the state on behalf of the district superintendent? And I was accused of that, right? And I said the allegations were a witch hunt that was levied by my political opponents. I denied the allegations, and kind of to prove that I wasn't guilty of these allegations and the accusations and the charges. To prove this, I don't know, did something extreme. Like, I blew up the superintendent's house and his neighborhood. You see what I'm saying? Who would you blame that act on? If I went to those lengths to prove that I had no loyalty to the superintendent because I was accused of embezzling money on his behalf, and I went to those lengths to prove that I was not loyal to him, I did something like that.
Obviously,
who would you blame?
The accusers.
You would blame the accusers.
Yeah, obviously, you would have to.
You would have to.
Because that's the logic that Tulsi Gabbard just administered.
Yeah. She's just trying to, like...
I don't get it.
I think she's just trying too hard to be an edgy contrarian. That's what that looks like.
And we've seen that before.
She's trying too hard.
We saw her trying to do that with the whole border wall argument. She wanted to blame both sides, yet she had the same exact position as the Democratic Party.
She was calling out her damn self.
She was calling out her damn self. It doesn't make any sense, man. We've stated before, look, in this presidential election, she's definitely not the top choice. Not for me. You've said so yourself as well. There are significant problems that we have with Tulsi Gabbard. So,
yeah, and I think there's some significant problems that present contradictions for progressives that I think they haven't examined yet.
No, I don't think so.
No.
All right, anyway. All right, we're going to get to another Democratic presidential candidate, all right? This is the last one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like 25 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So. All right, so Democratic presidential candidate Senator Cory Booker was recently doing some campaigning in Iowa and fielded a question about legalizing cannabis and nonviolent cannabis arrest. So we have that video to show you.
In lieu of certain states trying to make weed a recreational drug, how do you feel about nonviolent criminal offenders? What is your viewpoints on that?
So a lot of people have a very different perspective on marijuana than I do. And when I was in Stanford, people smoking weed and not having any worries about what the effect it might have in their lives. We have presidential candidates and congresspeople and senators that now talk about their marijuana use almost as if it's funny. But meanwhile, in 2017, we had more arrests for marijuana possession in this country than all the violent crime arrests combined. And what happens to people who are arrested for marijuana? First of all, who gets arrested? Poor people, and way disproportionately people of color. There's no difference in America between blacks and whites for using marijuana or even selling marijuana, but blacks are about 4 times more likely to be arrested for it. And so in Newark, the margins for error for my kids to experiment with drugs like people often do, that margin is not there. And then one kid gets one charge for possession of marijuana for doing things that 2 of the last 3 presidents admitted to doing. And what happens to their lives? They come out, the American Bar Association calls it 40,000, they use a fancy word, collateral consequences. Well, what does that mean? That means there are thousands of things you can't do for the rest of your life. You can't get many jobs in America. In Newark, you can't even get a job at a Burger King if you've had a previous criminal conviction. You can't get business licenses. You can't get a public housing. You have all of these things that for the rest of your life you can't do because you have a nonviolent drug charge. And so I'm all for legalizing marijuana. I have the premier bill in the Senate to do it. But you know what my bill says? It doesn't say just that we should deregulate marijuana on the federal level. We should make it legal, let the states do what they want. But it doesn't stop there, because do not talk to me about legalizing marijuana unless in the same breath you talk to me about expunging the records of the millions of people that are suffering with not being able to find a job. And then on top of that, people who are in prison should be able to petition their way out under the new laws. And more than that, all of this tax revenue that we're going to get from marijuana should be reinvested in those communities that have been disproportionately targeted by the war on drugs.
So Cory Booker, this was something that he added on to in a recent interview with Chris Matthews on MSNBC. This was actually just Monday night. And he said, quote, "We have presidential candidates, senators bragging about their pot use while there are kids who can't get a job because they have a nonviolent offense." I think this is a very strong tactic from Senator Cory Booker, because he's actually dealing with this issue with the seriousness that it calls for. To see somebody like Kamala Harris, when she was on The Breakfast Club during that interview, which was just a few weeks ago, and her laughing about her marijuana use while she was in college, and to know that after that marijuana use, or after that supposed marijuana use in college, she went on to become a DA in San Francisco. She went on to become an attorney general. And effectively, she charged many people, many poor people, with marijuana possession. So, and that speaks to the privilege that her and many other people all across this country have, that many others don't, like all these people that are in jail for marijuana possession. So I like that Cory Booker talked about that, again, with the seriousness that it deserves, and that he pointed to that if you're talking about marijuana legalization, don't talk about that isolated in and of itself. You also have to include that you need to expunge the records of everybody that has been convicted of these nonviolent drug arrests as well.
I will say, and I do hate to say this, just looking at how Cory Booker answered that question, I have to agree with him. Now, obviously, I'm compartmentalizing my outlook on Cory Booker. And just kind of relegating my opinion to just this matter, and I do think that's important. Obviously, we don't like Cory Booker, and we've had some very colorful things to say about him. But in this case, you can't deny he has the right answer. I still don't forgive him for corrupting Rosario Dawson. That's still on the table, Mr. Booker. But you did have a good answer here, and I do think it's in bad taste for our representatives, especially candidates, to tout their use of marijuana and kind of talk about it very frivolously, because I think Hillary Clinton did that too.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton did it too, kind of. He did it subtly.
He didn't inhale.
So
right.
his wasn't very jovial.
No.
Barack Obama did it too, but his wasn't as jovial as Kamala Harris. So I do think it's in bad taste, and it spits in the face of those who have been affected by it, whose lives have been affected by it.
And that are still affected by it.
Are still affected by it. So I totally understand his point. And I think, like, going into another lane, a lane that he chose not to go in, this is how I see this kind of jovial, nostalgic kind of take on their marijuana use. I see it more as pandering. You know what I'm saying? He didn't go into that lane, but I will. Like, I just see it more as pandering, and that's what I don't like. It's more of a function of these candidates and these representatives trying to increase their street cred.
No doubt.
And their
humanize themselves.
Their coolness.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
They're not just they're not like separate from any one of us. They're humans too. They do the same things that we do.
Like, but one thing that did that stood out to me that he did mention that I kind of like I completely forgot about is the whole public assistance thing. It's like a marijuana conviction preventing some people from gaining access to public assistance, and I was just like, that's amazing, considering the fact that there have been tons of representatives and presidents who have been convicted of DUIs, to me, which is much, much worse, but they are still considered viable candidates. they're still considered qualified. They're still considered morally qualified to run for office and hold office and make policies that deny people certain access for an offense like smoking weed.
Exactly. Cory Booker also talked about, and that was some of part of the video that we didn't show, but he talked about what he said, restorative justice. And he talked about the effort from many people to include people of color when you're talking about these dispensaries, you know, these people that are owning these marijuana operations. And as of right now, Senator Booker said that only about 2 to 3% are actually operated by people of color, and women that are in that field. It's less than that. So I agree with him. We talked about that with Cynthia Nixon in New York. She had an idea like that. And I think it's just, I guess it's apt because, like he said, disproportionately, people of color are impacted more so than white people. So when you see these dispensaries popping up, these operations popping up, and it's big business that is getting involved, it's a lot of white people that are getting involved, and people of color are not participating in it, yet they have been impacted the most by it, that rubs you the wrong way. I wish Cory Booker was a real dude. You know, this was a real perspective from Cory Booker. And he does have legislation addressing it. So maybe it is something that he actually feels like that is actually in his heart, and this is an actual ambition of his to do something about this. I don't know. I just wish that we would see that showcase itself in all areas, but we don't.
I think that's the reason why you see that is because it's strategic.
Yeah.
It's definitely strategic. They know they have to kind of, I guess, make a case for themselves on some areas. They have to pick what areas they look good in.
Right.
I guess areas where they don't have to compromise their interest.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's easier to come off as genuine when it's in an area where you're not compromising your interest. Those other areas, you know what I'm saying? But he has to pick something.
Yeah.
He has to pick something.
Look, again, he looks good on this issue. You can't deny it. He looks good on this issue. All right. So this was a leading candidate for Dummy of the Day. Okay, this was a leading candidate for Dummy of the Day, but again, somebody emerged very late
and just kind of,
what you say, hold my beer?
Hold
my beer type situation?
It was a hold my beer type situation. And said, yo, I got to take the stage.
Right. So let's get to this guy. All right. So Republican U.S. Representative Devin Nunes from California, who is the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, he is suing Twitter for shadow banning, effectively censoring conservatives and muting their voices. And he said he believes that this has impacted the 2018 midterm elections. Not only is Representative Nunes suing Twitter, the company, but Representative Nunes is actually suing individual Twitter users as well.
For defamation.
For defamation. So some of these individuals, some of their handles include at Devin Nunes Mom and at Devin Cow. So like you said, Nunes is alleging that Twitter facilitated, quote, defamation on its platform, end quote, and ignored, quote, lawful complaints about offensive content, end quote, to remain accessible to the public. And also in this lawsuit, it also says, Twitter, by its actions, intended to generate and proliferate the false and defamatory statements about plaintiff in order to influence the outcome of the 2018 congressional election and to intimidate plaintiff and interfere with his important investigation of corruption by the Clinton campaign and alleged Russian involvement in the 2018 presidential election. I tried to get through that without laughing. But I could not.
In the lawsuit also, he claims that Twitter's failure to police mean memes, among other things, caused him extreme pain and suffering. Now, how old is Devin Nunes? He's like 50s?
Is he 50? I thought he was probably in
40s. 40s.
Yeah,
Either way, He's probably not too aware of the monster he was trying to go up against. Now, as far as I know, the internet is undefeated. And apparently Devin Nunes did not know that.
He was unaware.
He was unaware that the internet was undefeated. So he not only went after the internet for some reason, he went after the internet's fist. In Twitter, if you're going to go up against the internet, you do not go up against the internet's fist, which is like the equivalent of, I don't know, like a Mike Tyson uppercut. That is the wrong part of the internet to go up against. And there was someone on Twitter who started this trend, and it says, we should all change our names on Twitter to be Devin Nunes themed for a day. Now this person changed his Twitter name to Devin Nunes is a whiny baby. If you go down that Twitter thread, it's basically people saying done, done,
yes.
done, done with their new Twitter handle. Some of my favorites are Devin Nunes hurt fifis. That's one of my one of my favorites. Devin Nunes black friend. Devin Nunes biological mom. Devin Nunes chiropractor. Devin Nunes totally real girlfriend.
There was Devin Nunes tears. There was Devin Nunes Velcro shoes.
That was your favorite one. Devin Nunes needs help. That is funny. And literally like hours after this like happened, Raw Story posted an article, and the headline was Devin Nunes parody account spike in Twitter followers after Congressman's lawsuit. And I was like, that's why you don't pick a fight with the internet's fist. It's Twitter. And he must have just, somebody didn't tell him. Somebody did not tell him.
Excuse me. I'm just writing out my lawsuit right quick. Because, see, I remember you bullying me in 5th grade, you know what I'm saying? Picking on my shoes or something like that. And you know what? Even speaking to current day, see, we have that on record. We have that on record, okay? See, this is the type of guy that has poked fun at my usage of the words ho-hum. So I gotcha. 250 million, okay? I gotcha. This is what Devin Nunes is doing.
See, like
he's suing individual Twitter users for $250 million because they bullied him, because they mocked him on social media. This is a United States Congress member, and he can't take a little bit of poking fun at.
See, to
he
me,
calls it defamation.
There has to be something more to this. Yes, we can pick at it, and it is ridiculous and pathetic and thin-skinned. But there's got to be more to this.
This is so...
Like this, I think that this is actually, it's funny, but I think it's pretty serious. Because this is him trying to squash any dissent by burying it in litigation in hopes that people will be financially drained from this. I hope it gets thrown out and is not seen as a legitimate lawsuit, so people won't have to go through that. But I think that's the end goal here. Even though we can make fun of it and laugh at it, that's the end goal, because it just doesn't make sense. It has to be some sort of like bigger goal here. And to me, that's to drown out actually people who both, because it's like a combination of things, like bringing up serious issues, but actually poking fun at people while doing it. And that's what happens on social media. So making him look stupid and bringing up like serious issues in regards to Devin Nunes's political positions and how he's been running interference for Trump. So that's been happening along with him being made to look like a fool. I think he's more concerned about the things that implicate him politically, and he's trying to shut that down and using or burying people in litigation to do that. People who probably can't kind of afford that type of, financial burden.
But the big fish here is Twitter. So it's these social media companies that these conservatives always are crying about, saying that they are being shut out of, that they're being shadow banned, that they're being effectively censored, which is absolute nonsense. You can look at their Twitter posts. You can see the far reach of them. Diamond and Silk, who are two ridiculous conservative voices, they have actually said the same thing. They actually appeared before a committee in Congress talking about how they were being censored, which they are not. You can look at the reach that they still have today, and they are not being effectively silenced at all. So I think this is just an effort by conservatives to try to get these social media giants to bend to their request. And if they, if they do just the slightest bit of, we're going to bend, we're going to do something for you, we're going to placate somehow, we're just going to do something for you, it's going to be never ending.
And again, it's like, I think that Twitter handle only had 1,200 followers. One of the Twitter handles he's suing only had 12. Guess how many followers it had, like hours after the this defamation lawsuit was brought to the public eye. It went up like to 20-something thousand.
So he caused himself a bigger audience to be mocked from. Yes. All right, so now we get to the individual that said, hold my beer, the LTMB dummy of the day. So on Tuesday, the political commentators on Fox News' Outnumbered discussed Senator Elizabeth Warren CNN town hall. Katie Pavlik weighed in on her thoughts about the discussion of slavery and reparations.
They keep blaming America for the sin of slavery, but the truth is, throughout human history, slavery has existed, and America came along as the first country to end it within 150 years. And we get no credit for that to move forward and try and make good on that.
Well, we did have a very bloody civil war
over that
and
issue.
We also, and the remnants
are a long time.
The racial history,
and
the remnants of the Civil War, particularly blacks in the South.
Correct.
Yes.
That was not an easy path. I mean, that was bloody and violent and deadly.
And there were Native Americans here when we showed up.
We're still, my point is that we were the country that decided to end it, and we're still dealing with the issue. But if you want to start a problem and to inflame racial tension even more, start blaming people who have nothing to do with slavery for the sin of slavery. That is not fair. That's not the American way, and we shouldn't be doing it.
Don't blame me for slavery. I didn't do anything. Yeah, because, I make it a habit of, walking around every day in my neighborhood. And, I did this when I went to work. I made sure to hold every white person accountable for slavery. And I made it a point of doing that. I made them apologize for it. I blamed them. And I said, hey, you owe me something. That's exactly what I did. Every day, all day.
To describe this as dumb is just being a little bit too nice. I mean, there's several points that we want to hit, but that one point about blaming her, like her feeling blame personally about slavery, or any white person that is around today, about being blamed for slavery. Again, this was in response to Senator Warren's CNN town hall and the discussion about race and reparations and slavery. Nobody, I don't think black people are going around blaming just individual white people and being like, you know what? You are responsible for slavery. You owe me something.
Matter of
when
fact,
we talk about reparations,
pull your wallet out, dog.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. When we talk about reparations, we're talking about money coming from the government that is going to do something, that is going to seek redress of what happened years earlier, okay?
So it's not about her.
It's not about her. Now, you know what would be radical? You know what would be radical? Is if black people were demanding white people to all pool their money together. All you white people are responsible for slavery. So all you pool your money together and you're going to have to give some money to black people. Now that would be radical.
Now, if we're just talking about like collective progress and collective change that all countries make, not just the United States. Like your children, if our viewers have kids, aren't they going to deal with the problems that occurred in the previous generations and have to solve problems that occurred in the previous generations? No matter what that is. This is not even about whether you agree with reparations. I'm just talking about how we approach these issues.
Right.
And there's not an issue that we approach that doesn't involve trying to rectify something that was done before us.
True.
Does not mean we're accepting blame for it. It just means that, hey, they went the wrong direction.
And we have to deal with it.
We have to deal with it. We have to, make certain decisions to go in the right direction. It's just that simple. Like, that's how we, attack most topics and most issues.
We talk about the debt all the time. I mean, conservatives, liberals, they always talk about the debt. $22 trillion in debt. And who's going to have to be responsible for it? Who's going to be paying that? They always talk about our future generations. Our kids are going to have to be burdened with this debt. So they weren't responsible for it, right? No, not at all. One thing that really piqued my ears, or my attention though, she said, well, first of all, she said the United States deserves some credit for ending slavery. Okay. Okay. Yeah, all right. Anyway, but she said the United States deserves credit for ending slavery within 150 years. 150 years. Wow, that's some really poor math. 100. Okay, so I would assume that you would say slavery ended with the Emancipation Proclamation, 1865. I would assume
that's not even taken into account after slavery.
That's not even addressing the red line.
Because again, reparations is not actually just about slavery, but let's just say it is.
Yeah, the hangings and all.
Let's just say it is not Jim Crow.
No,
not
forget
apartheid.
that.
Essentially apartheid and segregation.
You want to hit it at the end of the Civil War, 1865? Cool.
Because that's what they mentioned.
That's what they mentioned. So if you go back 150 years, that would bring you back to about like 1710, 1710, something like that. And from what I understand, there's different points in history where people claim that slavery officially started. Now, I believe there are many people, many historians that settle on the idea that in 1619, the first slaves arrived. The first African slaves arrived in the United States of America. It wasn't the United States of America then at that point, but still. 1619. So if you go by that date, of course, that is much longer than that's much longer than 150 years. You're missing like 100 years. Now, you could even point to like different court cases. The court cases of John Punch and John Kaser. John Punch, he was a runaway slave, and as his punishment, because he got caught, his punishment was a lifetime of slavery. That was in 1640. In 1654, John Kaser, he was deemed a slave in a civil case. He was the first one that was deemed a slave in a civil case. So even if you picked the latest occurrence, 1654, you're still short some 50 years or so?
Not only is she short, she's giving America credit for being first for something America was not first. Because the tyrants overseas, the ones that, your forefathers broke away from in a fit of freedom rage.
That's right. Sought their revolution.
Revolution.
Yeah.
Those guys over there, they outlawed slavery before we did.
There was no part of this from Katie Pavlik that was intelligent. To think that the United States of America deserves credit for ending the practice of shackling people because of the color of their skin, selling people because of the color of their skin, murdering people, selling families, like separating families because of the color of their skin. The mere notion that we should receive credit for ending that practice is buffoonery.
As if it was done out of the goodness of their hearts.
Oh no, they were pushed to that.
They were pushed to that.
They were pushed to it. Many lives were ended because of that push.
But I think the point is, it's not about you as an individual.
Why do you feel guilty?
Well, why do you feel guilty? Like if your father murdered somebody, right? And the victim's family wanted restitution, as far as your father getting punished, right? And going after your father, or your grandfather, who is still alive, but has not been held accountable, right? For the crimes. If the family that was the victim of your grandfather's crimes just wants your grandfather to be held accountable, meaning restitution or some sort of repair, right? That has nothing to do with you.
Not at all.
Not going after you, just going after the grandfather.
You would feel ashamed of what happened in your past and that you have some link to it.
And, or like when companies get sued for doing things for like 100 years or something and causing pain in somebody's life, what usually is a part of, I guess, the money, or what kind of sentiment is attached to the money that they get? Pain and suffering, right? And that pain and suffering has nothing to do with anybody specifically connected, like I guess, to that company. That's just what that's the restitution that the company has to pay. That's the reason why they have to pay it, because they cause pain and suffering. So if the United States caused pain and suffering, and you consider that your zaddy, because that's what it sounds like. Right. She considers the United States like her zaddy, right? Like, because that's what she did in that little exchange. You could tell she conflated herself with America. That's why she feels so like personally attacked, because she constantly kept conflating and talking about herself as if she is America. That's the problem.
You went to the right place though, and compared this to a corporation, a company. Like, what if there was new ownership many years later after they had been poisoning water sources? They would probably have to pay because they ruin lives and they sicken people.
Yeah, so as an employee of that company, I'm not going to like take it personally when that company has to then pay restitution. It doesn't make any sense. That's why I think.
So why is you, a white person, why would you feel guilty about it? It probably has something to do with the fact that you have some type of opinion about the United States.
I think you were channeling slavery, dog, just now. So you were channeling a little bit there, dog. You was like, why is you? No, I thought you were about to say, I's a Negro. I's a Negro.
Again, this is buffoonery. This is, man, hold my beer. Hold my beer. I got some real nonsense to spew out.
Give us free. We'll over here, give us free.
But at least Kennedy, she pushed back on it just a little bit.
Oh, she did.
She did. It's like, hold on. It was really ugly. It was a really violent period right after slavery too.
We can't
minimize that.
We can't go without giving her credit.
No doubt.
Although it's whack, Fox News. We can't go without giving her credit.
But at least she knew.
For pushing back. She was like, wait a second, what are you saying, dummy? She didn't say that, but you could tell the look on her face. She was like, you need to hold off.
150. I would love for you to, them 150 years, I would love to see that calculation though. Like how you got that. Because I looked all over the internet. I was like, who, where, and how?
You doing the, what's it, Gayle King hands? You doing the
like,
remember how Gayle King was mimicking R. Kelly? He was like, I'm an older man that loves young women. And then Gayle was like, huh? You was what? Say that again, R. Kelly?
Oh,
moving them hands like Gayle. That's her last name, King, right?
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Boy, oh boy, man. I'm
an older man that loves all women.
That's a real. She deserved that one.
Is that how you calculate, Will?
Yeah, I guess you got, because you can't do it on a calculator. You can't do that on a calculator, because every calculation that I come up with exceeds 150 years. So I would love to see how. So first of all, you want to cry the pity me game. Like, pity me, you shouldn't be blaming me. And then you minimize how long the evil institution of slavery actually lasted. Like, you did the most there. All right. So I think we have reached the end of the commentary part of this program. So now it is on you. We would love to hear from you. This is the time to call into the program. And that number is 669-900-6833. We would love to hear from you. Again, about anything that we have addressed tonight. I think we had a multitude of topics that we talked about tonight, some good conversation material. We would love to hear from new voices, so if you do have a comment or question, please feel free to call in, and we'll be sure to get you heard on this program. So let me just open this up. Oh yeah, and a little update about the last week we were talking about the Chaco Challenge.
Oh yeah, that's
talking about the Chaco Challenge. So it has not arrived yet. It will be only me that is partaking in this dangerous adventure. It does have milk. It is milk chocolate. So my man is not going to be partaking in this. But I'm gonna go ahead and bite that bullet.
We oh yeah, I want to go back to, since we know the show's over and we're about to start the call-in portion. So I'm just gonna spitball here. We don't have a lot to we don't have anything else to talk about. Didn't leave anything on the table, but I want to go back to our coverage of Elizabeth Warren.
Okay.
You had during our correspondence about what we were going to talk about, the town hall and her answers. You had a funny little story.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that I wanted you to mention while we were talking about Elizabeth Warren, but I
guess
we moved on too quick.
We moved on. As I was watching the Elizabeth Warren town hall last night on CNN, my aunt was actually watching it as well, and she asked me, "Will, isn't that the talk show host?" I was like, talk show host? I was like, nah, that's...
referring to Elizabeth
Warren, yes. And I was like, well, no, that's Elizabeth Warren. She's a senator. She's like, oh, okay. And, a couple minutes passed by, just a couple minutes. And then she was like, no, hold on, no. I remember her some years back. She was a talk show host. She had a talk show. And it took me a few seconds, right? And I was like...
Trying to think back.
Why would you... The talk show host? And I was, oh. I know what you did there.
Yo, she wasn't joking.
She was not joking.
She wasn't joking.
Yes. And to our knowledge, Elizabeth Warren did not conduct a talk show back in the 90s or 80s or anything like that.
But if you're thinking about who had blonde hair.
Yes. Who wore glasses. Who had short hair.
Short, yeah.
Yeah. That would be none other than Sally Jesse Raphael. And that too, my aunt thought that Elizabeth Warren was.
What's funny was, right?
I looked at the pictures and I was like, wow. Yeah. I never made that connection before. Never made it.
But that's funny though, because see, like when you sent me that message telling me that, you know how like when you read something, whether it be a message or just an article or reading anything, a book, you tend to scan like different portions of the text as you're reading. So you're not just reading one line. You're kind of like like you're already preparing to read the lines below that. You already see what words are coming. Well, I didn't like scroll all the way down.
Right.
As I was reading your message. So I'm like, my aunt, blah, blah, blah. And then so I didn't see it. So I didn't get a peek at like who your aunt like thought it was. Right. So I'm just reading my aunt, blah, 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 blah. So I'm scrolling up. I see Sally. I was like, I was like, yo, wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for how it ended. I was like, dang.
I never thought about that before. But if you look at the pictures, the noses are a little bit different. And Sally Jesse Raphael, she had the red trim in her glasses.
I used to love
like
me
how
some
you identified
Sally
her.
Jesse Raphael.
Yeah.
I swear to God, yo, when we used to come home from school,
no doubt,
like what we used to watch on TV transition, like when we was like, elementary school. Maybe early middle school, but for the most part, elementary school. When you came home from school, 2 or 3 o'clock, you got your little snack,
right?
And you watch cartoons. Like we watched, I think when I was growing up, it was like DuckTales and Rescue Rangers, and it was something else.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was on. That's what we watched. But see, as you get older, late middle school, early high school, you start watching those talk shows.
Right.
Yo, I tell you, I used to. Sally Jesse Raphael.
Yeah.
What else?
Jenny Jones.
Ricky Lake.
Yeah.
And actually, those shows covered some serious topics. Even Jerry Springer at his beginning covered serious topics.
Maury Povich.
Mm-hmm. Even Geraldo.
That's true. Geraldo
actually had a legit show, and they covered serious topics. But unfortunately, the viewership is a bit superficial, and that gets boring. As a society, we don't want to deal with real issues. Yeah. And if
they wanted conflict.
They wanted conflict. Not only conflict, they wanted more like extravagant topics. Now, naturally, these shows did do this. In mixed in with those serious topics. Mm-hmm. You had shows like, you had the paternity test.
Yeah,
you had the I'm coming out gay. Or I'm coming, what I'm saying, I got a secret to tell you, or the paternity test.
You remember the ones about if you could tell if it was a man or a woman?
A man or a woman, Mm-hmm. So those were always there, but those didn't represent like the bulk of the show. What happened was they noticed that those shows started like getting the most views. And so if you're going to blame anybody for these shows trying to change in their format, blame the audience. Blame the audience. I mean, they went where the viewers wanted to go. That's what they did. So like, I can't get mad at them for changing because honestly, people actually
viewership changes.
The viewership changed it. You know what I'm saying? So that's capitalism.
Beth, Springer was actually a mayor of Cincinnati, I think it was. I think it was Cincinnati he was a mayor of. But he definitely was a mayor. But I think it was Cincinnati, but I'm not sure. But yeah, those days are long gone. And what's replaced them is reality TV.
Yeah, that may have been the kind of the precursor to reality TV, because essentially that's the model they went to. It just wasn't shot in the same way.
Right.
It was kind of a different format, but that's essentially reality TV. That's what what's the spinoff of Jerry Springer? Steve Wilkos. Steve Wilkos has his little bald-headed ass. He has his show where he just invites people on to like
Court TV. Court TV replaced them too. Again, extravagant type of drama, conflict. But you remember
People's Court?
People's Court was
Judge
like,
Wapner.
What? I love People's Court.
Boom.
But it was pretty much the only one though. Now there's
I used to like the person that was like narrating when they would come in.
Oh, yeah.
He would be kind of sly and like whispering
Kinda soft,
kind of
yeah.
soft.
But stern.
And be like kind of sarcastic.
Right.
And like add something on the end of it. She's accused of like bucking the turtle. Something like stupid. She's accused of, you know what I'm saying? Something like
the thing about
quippy.
the thing about a People Court that and actually any of these court shows right now, but People's Court, Divorce Court, those things always like fascinated me because one side would tell a story like this, just straight and narrow, these are the details. And then they get to the other account and it's completely different. And I'm like, okay, hold on. How could the details be so different? Somebody's lying. Somebody's obviously lying. And there's no way to figure out like exactly how it went down. Your narrative is completely different than this one. I'm like, wow. And that is customary. It just always happened. It was fascinating to me as a kid, man. But then I learned that, everybody lies. So.
Oh, true that.
So, Anyway, so we have our first caller, so we can stop rambling on about nothing. All right, so we're going to get to 443 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
What's going on, fellas? It's Court.
What's happening, man?
What's shaking right now, man? What's going on with you?
Yeah, same old shit, different day.
I'm going to bring that back.
How y'all doing?
Good, man. I'm going to bring that back.
What's shaking?
What's shaking? Jive, turkey. I'm going to bring those back.
Yeah,
sucker. Sucker.
Fish out, fool.
You fish out, I know, right?
I speak a little jive.
All right, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, I was listening to you guys talking about Elizabeth Warren and her stance on Medicare for all.
Yeah, how you feel about that?
Yeah, man. I mean, Elizabeth Warren has that. She's got that third way. She's got that third way liberalism streak in her. I try not to judge her too hard for it. I mean, she's better off or better for us than Clinton or Schultz.
Right.
Yeah, but I think when you get into American politics, you're always going to come up against money because Americans admire money. They admire material gain. It's a very materialistic society. We admire rich people. Whether we want to admit it or not, we all trip all over ourselves when somebody with money shows up on the scene to try and impress them.
Trump wouldn't be president without that.
The wisest thing. It's what we do. Well, you still know?
I was just saying Trump wouldn't be president without that.
Oh yeah. Especially you look at the people who voted for Trump, and you look at their economic situation. They'll talk all day long. They'll talk a blue streak about Hollywood elites and, Jewish globalists and all this bullshit. But at the end of the day, when a loudmouth trust fund baby, said some racist shit that they agreed with, they immediately fell all over their dicks to go vote for him. So, I don't think they're pure either. So what do you guys think? I mean, do you think Elizabeth Warren is completely damaged goods now? Like, don't vote for her. Go for Bernie. Go for Williamson. You know what I mean? Go for Yang. What do you think?
Honestly, I'm disappointed because, you know, there is definitely some criticism of Senator Elizabeth Warren we have. And I mean, most of it can be deduced to what happened in 2016. A lot of that was because of, you know, her just sitting on the sidelines and not actually activating herself, not, you know, lending a voice to supporting Bernie Sanders, and then just being so like energetic about supporting Hillary Clinton. So that a lot of that was about that. A lot of it is about how late and how silent she was about the Dakota Access Pipeline. So yeah, there are criticism of her, but when you're talking about financial matters, you know, money, actually trying to advocate for consumers, she's always been pretty solid on that. So this was, I can definitely be honest here, this was kind of surprising that she would be like so hesitant to actually go full throttle on Medicare for All, even though she signed on as a co-sponsor to the legislation. Like, why would you now try to pull back from that when we all know you to be somebody that actually represents consumers and actually tries to advocate for their best interests? And this was a question about that. Like, how does Medicare for All, how is that a great option for workers? You know, so I just don't get it. So I don't know. Like you said, she's a better candidate than somebody like Schultz. She's a better candidate than somebody like, I would say, Kamala Harris, Booker, Clinton. You know, she's definitely one of the best candidates, but this was not an area that I expected her to pull away from.
And I think it's a bad
What's your
move.
opinion, Mike?
I think it's a bad move on her part. It was just a bad move because, like polling shows, there's enough people on both sides that want a serious change in our system as far as healthcare. So I don't think she would be going out on a limb to just kind of like go full throttle with her support for Medicare for All. She wouldn't be going out on a limb. I think that it just seemed that she was like afraid to. There's no reason why if she's a co-sponsor already. You know, so it just seems as if she was trying to hedge her bets, and I think it was a bad move. I don't think she would have lost any value as far as towards the electorate. I just don't think like that she would have diminished her value if she would have went full throttle and be like, yeah, you know, I think again it's going to come up again. So if she doesn't kind of alter her response at all or refine her response, it's going to come back to haunt her. So you can't be on the fence at any time, whether it's during the primaries or whether it's if she makes it to the general election. You can't be on the fence of this. It's going to come back and bite her in the butt. Now, obviously, I'm not like sitting there writing her off because just like Will, I'd much rather have her than somebody like a Booker or a Harris or a O'Rourke or a Biden or a Klobuchar or whoever else is Gillibrand or whoever else. But yeah, I think like kind of you mentioned, those kind of third way bones in her body kind of surfaced and made an appearance in that response. I'm not sure she can ever get rid of that. I don't think it clouds her judgment for the most part, but in this case it did, and I'm disappointed. Like, I'm not writing her off. She's going to have to correct that ship at some point in this process, in this primary process.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, like, I've had people tell me, you know, that the whole Native American thing has pretty much ruined chances. And, you know, I do tend to agree with that, but I think it's not the Native American thing. I think what it is she had her shot in 2016 to speak up about what happened to Bernie in the Democratic primary, and she really, you know what I mean? She really didn't say, listen, this is kind of unfair that this happened. She just glommed right on to Hillary Clinton. Now, you could say because her and Hillary Clinton are mainstream or establishment Democrats, but Elizabeth Warren isn't an establishment Democrat. She never really has been an establishment Democrat. She's more or less a progressive, but I feel like she's been in the Senate. She's a senator, right? She's been in the Senate for so long that she's had to go along to get along, and that that colors her response to certain questions and things like that. That's why I really like Marianne Williamson. Man, I'm telling you, man, I finally seen an article about her outside of you guys. I saw it on Reddit today, and it was about her spiritualism, and it was just a straight up attack. You know, it was just a straight up attack on her, you know, her ability to think rationally because of her spiritual beliefs. And I'm like, she's the only Democratic woman candidate that is able to put aside her political beliefs and actually speak to the truth, no matter what. Mm-hmm. Now, Elizabeth Warren, you know, she gets asked a question about Medicare for all, and she immediately starts to tack middle. We can't tack middle. We need to tack left, right? Because you're going to end up in the middle if you don't. If you're going to end up in the middle if you tack left. If you tack middle, we're going to end up right.
Right.
That's just where the country is right now. You know what I mean? That's just where the country is right now. If you go in there and say lackluster, mediocre shit about, you know, third way liberalism, we're gonna re-elect Trump. And I get it. Like, I have friends who have sentiments, you know, that are this way, and I understand it. But man, she kind of disappointed me too. And I like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders are my two main candidates. You know, Marianne Williamson, I'd love to cast the primary group, but I don't think she's going to make it into the primaries. Yeah. You know, I mean, just because they've sidelined her so hard, and it's not even difficult for the mainstream media to do this. They just don't even mention her. You know what I mean? They don't mention a woman like Marianne Williamson. They barely mention the Yang, right? Like, I think I heard about Yang on you know, from the chat when I was you know, listening to your program. But as far as Elizabeth Warren, she's out there. You know what I mean? Like, she is like the progressive woman candidate, and she's out there, and this is what she did, man. So it
was unnecessary. And see, you have to think about the timing of this, because most of the Democratic presidential candidates, they advocate for Medicare for all. Most of them. I mean, a significant portion of them have all come out and said, yeah, we need Medicare for all. So
I think Beto advocated for it, didn't he?
Well, Beto kind of pulled back from it. He did when he was running for Senate, and then towards the end, he kind of started pulling back. And even now, he said something. Actually, I have a quote from this guy. He said, I think the fastest way to get there is to ensure that people who have insurance that they like through their employer are able to keep it, and that we complement that with those who can purchase Medicare be covered by Medicaid. So he has, you know, he's already hedged his bet. He has already said that his personal preference is not actually a single payer type option. So forget him. But I mean, there's still candidates that have advocated for Medicare for all, and they haven't pulled their support of that. So for somebody like Elizabeth Warren, who in 2016, before the primaries, like, people wanted to see her run. People really, really loved Senator Elizabeth Warren and thought she was one of the best progressives out there, in that she probably had what it took to run and actually defeat Clinton, but she didn't run. So the least that she could have done was supported Bernie Sanders, but she didn't do that. So she missed the call in 2016, and then now, when she could keep advocating for a very progressive type of policy initiative, she doesn't.
She don't. And that hit the nail right on the head, Will. That hit the nail right on the head. Last year, because I always said it before, like 2014, 2015, you know, she was on my radar. Elizabeth Warren was on my radar. Mm-hmm. And then 2016 hit, and she was like, oh, I could never run for president. It's just too much stress. Oh, okay, that's completely acceptable. And then she was like, well, I'm going to back Hillary Clinton instead of Bernie Sanders. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And now, like, I'm kind of locking on Bernie now. I'm really like, I don't know if I trust Elizabeth. That's fucked up, because I really feel like she is, like, you listen to her talk about banks, you listen to her talk about, it's like she knows it. She talks the talk. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I trust her to walk the walk, man. I just don't know. I just don't know if I trust her to walk the walk.
Agreed, man.
Yeah, there's really no telling right now, and the jury's still out. And kind of, she created the situation for those who actually have who viewed how she described her support for Medicare for all. I think those of us who saw how she responded kind of understand what kind of implications that has. But like you said, we just gotta wait and see, and kind of trust in whether she'll follow through with that is kind of still on the table. But as always, man, you put yourself out there, and you always kind of have things of value to say. I really appreciate that, man. People love it when you call, man. They love it when you call. They cheer in the comment section. So,
well, I love everything about this whole program, man. I wish we had 10 other LTMBs, but I know this is rare, and that you're lucky what you get. Yeah. But I'll let you fellas go. Hopefully you got some more calls, and we'll talk at you later.
Yeah, we're going to get to our next call, and we appreciate you, man. Have a good night, man.
All right, have a good night, Court.
All right, peace out.
All right, we have a 317 area code on the line. You are on the air live with LTMB. Who is this and where are you calling from?
What's going on? This is Kane X.
Kane X
again.
What's going on, man? How you doing tonight?
I'm all right, man. Just wanted to call in, talk a little bit more about just this election cycle right now. As far as I can see it right now, I think Bernie Sanders might just be like a once-in-a-lifetime candidate. The way it's shaking out, because I was looking hard at Tulsi, but I'm just really not seeing the economic angle there. Whereas Bernie, I mean, he just keep hitting it with these universal programs, so I feel like if he ain't there, I'm going to have to go Green Party. You know what I'm saying? Because all the rest of these people are just bought and sold. It looks like. I mean, I couldn't imagine voting for any other mother.
I mean, we can understand that.
We can understand that because that's where we were.
2016. Exactly. I guess the difference is, I mean, our perspective changed a little bit. In 2016, when we advocated for Jill Stein, there was a goal in mind. There was to do something that would propel the Green Party forward. Get to 5% of the total vote. That would, do a lot of things for them going forward. Possibly, not right away, of course, but sometime in the future, maybe that would, project them, propel them forward and to where they would actually be an actual third option, an actual competitive third option. Jill Stein got 1% of the vote, and that was in a year where there was so much there were two polarizing candidates, unfavorable numbers, just sky high. So going forward, in 2020, we're not going to have that type of situation. So me personally, I don't see that I could vote for Green Party, and it actually doesn't even matter who the Democratic Party's nominee is. If it's Kamala Harris, if it's Beto O'Rourke, if it's damn Joe Biden. I mean,
you know what? You might as well just Joe Biden has a very soft delivery, and he has very soft and comforting tone to how he talks. But to me, he comes off like a damn white supremacist, dog. I'm sorry. He comes off like a white supremacist. Like I'm not even being extreme here. Just like how he talks about especially issues surrounding crime and black people, and the recent video that surfaced about segregation. You see what I'm saying? And even how he talked about Barack Obama in some ways kind of pointed to that.
Yeah. You go back to the crime bill, all of that. Yeah. But the question is, if he's the nominee, what do you do?
Yeah, no, I just think that Go ahead, man. Go ahead. I'll let you talk.
Yeah, I mean, y'all making a little sense, man. Like, I'll still keep it open to Tulsi, man. But man, I feel like Bernie just kind of pull us out. Like Bernie's gonna have to. I feel like we are right back where we were in 2016. I feel like Bernie might have to just take the gloves off, man, and start actually defining what a progressive is. I heard Donna Brazile got on Fox News and claimed that she was a progressive.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's unacceptable, man. You know, Bernie's gonna have to just rip everybody's heads off and like start over. Like
he's gonna have to. You know, if he should, he's gonna have to do something. I mean, look, he had a good campaign, 2016. Nobody's denying that. But we had some criticisms, and you know, there were certain times that he didn't, like you said, he didn't take those gloves off. You know, he didn't actually tell it exactly the way it was. You know, he was a little bit too nice to somebody like Hillary Clinton. So he needs to do some more of that. He tells the truth, but man, like you just have to be a little bit more aggressive. The reason why I think Beto is dangerous is because he has charisma, he has energy, and he does know how to articulate his position well. Whether he's bullshit or not doesn't matter. He's able to like convey that his ideology, and people are able to understand it easily, and people just accept it and they're supportive of that.
Better than Kamala.
Better than Kamala Harris. Bernie Sanders, everybody knows he's real, but his messaging, you know, it may, you know, it can be improved. I think it can be improved.
I mean, I've been watching his rallies, and it seemed like his platform is so huge. You know, it's like he still gets around to covering all of that. I mean, so like, that's why I said when I first called in, man, he's a once in a lifetime candidate. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen anyone close to him since maybe JFK, right? Like, I don't know if anybody's compared that, but like as far as just how powerful his whole persona is, and like his policies with that. So, I mean, I already brought that up, but like, as far as him taking the gloves off, I feel like, you know what I mean, like that's gonna have to happen. And I do want to ask about his universal programs versus reparations. I want to know how y'all feel about it, because from where I'm sitting at, America is so jacked up. Like, I kind of feel like, because I'm ADOS, but I kind of feel like Bernie is on the right track as far as we do need to get these universal programs before we even do reparations, because that reparations should complement that. Like, we should fix the system and then do it. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
Okay. I mean, I think that's kind of where we are as well, because if you don't kind of look to correct kind of inconsistencies in the system, then, you know, giving out checks will not work. Now, I actually would like anybody, not just Bernie Sanders, any candidate that's legitimately trying to address reparations to go even further than that. Because, you know, you can have all the programs in the world, but if the same system is still in place and we don't address capitalism, how much of an impact will those systems have? So I tend to agree with you that we do have to go a little bit further than just checks. And most of the people who do follow the topic of reparations seriously kind of have engaged it in that way. So I think I'm with you in that, man. And we're going to let that be where this conversation ends, because we have about 3 or 4 more calls to get to. And we appreciate you calling again, Kane X. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, good to hear your voice again, Kane.
Hey, keep it up, man. You know, love the show, y'all.
Appreciate that, man. Have a good night.
All right.
Yeah, I'm with Mike on that. That's what we've stated before. We need we need to fix the system. You know, I'm all with fixing the system.
I'm all with the focus group and everything. We all like the focus group.
We all like that.
But they need a focus group on this damn capitalism.
Exactly.
And this kind of like kleptocracy.
Right.
With like it's going to be short-lived. Any program is going to be short-lived in this kind of apparatus.
Yeah. An individual checks on top of a system that's already working fine. I mean, you can say it's broken, but it's not. But it's working fine. Checks on top of that is not going to do anything. So we actually have to get at the heart of the issue. All right, so we're going to go to 562 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Will.
Hey, what's going on?
Sal?
I'm here with my dad, and like, just for him, what do you think about Nixon? Do you believe he's a crook?
Who?
Nixon, President Nixon.
Do we believe President Nixon was a crook?
Yeah.
Let's just say there are, I think there were over 2,000 subpoenas that were issued in regard to that kind of give credence to him being a crook. He did spy on political opponents and like illegally like sent operatives in to spy on political opponents. He tapped people's like phones and stuff like that. Oh, so yeah.
It was an operation.
It was an operation.
Yeah.
Okay, and Mike and Will, now for my initial question, and a joke question. I guess I'll go with the joke question first. Who do you think will be in the NBA championship? Which Eastern Conference and Western Conference?
Oh, we got an LTMB sports question.
Yeah. Quickly, I say Warriors Celtics.
Ooh.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I say San Antonio.
San Antonio? You think San
Antonio?
Really?
Yeah. That's my That's my dark horse.
Like the number 7 or 8?
No. Like the obvious choice is Golden State.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make the obvious choice. San Antonio is like on a 9-game winning streak, and they beat Golden State yesterday.
Without Cousins.
Yeah, without Cousins. That's true. San Antonio is my dark horse, but I think it's going to be San Antonio and Toronto is my dark horse. But as the obvious choice, it would be Golden State and Toronto.
All right. So let's get to, you have another question?
Okay, my last question is, oh yeah, by the way, if anyone's watching from LA, Bernie Sanders is holding a rally on March 23rd. I just want to put that out there. And my initial question is, for the Mueller investigation, I saw on TYT that it was under threat that 50% of this country could lose its witch hunt.
Could lose its what?
It's a witch hunt. The TYT, I guess, cited some statistic that 50% of the people in the country believe it's a witch hunt. It depends on who they polled as well. Are you just asking us what we think about the investigation as a whole, or what?
It was USA Now who did that. And my cousin, I love him to death, but he also believes it's a witch hunt. I'm just telling him, let's see what's going on, and how could I make him see my point of view if I said in any way? He's a diehard Trump supporter, by the way. I'm not diehard, he just loves the Republican Party.
Well, you can't. You can't. I mean, if it's surrounding the Mueller investigation, nobody knows anything right now. We know that there are several indictments, several people that are connected to Donald Trump that have been indicted. How that relates to Donald Trump, that's all speculative at this point. So, I'd say really just leave it alone until it's actually all settled, until there's an actual report that we can see.
And there's actually multiple investigations going on at the same time. Some of them are connected to the Mueller investigation, some of them are not, and people are choosing to kind of compartmentalize how they view this topic and make, I guess come to conclusions based on the little bit they think they know. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have a convergence of bad actors that are surrounding Donald Trump that either have been indicted or either been convicted of crimes. And if you actually look into what some of these people have done, you would take it seriously, whether it be Michael Flynn, whether it be Manafort, Cohen, Rick Gates, any of these people. And now the actually former RNC chairman, Brody, they raided his home last year. And that's ongoing. So there's a lot of ongoing things about this. And for people to think that Trump is clean, even though he has a history of bank fraud, insurance fraud, and money laundering, it's kind of ridiculous. Now, whether you believe in the Russia stuff, that's another story, but there's all kinds of things going on. So that's kind of the way we see it. You know, he has a lot of financial interests that kind of, you know, may make him a vulnerable person that is, I don't know, vulnerable to security risks. So I don't know. That's the way we see the Mueller investigation or anything involving any investigation on Trump. So we're going to have to cut this, Saab. Appreciate you calling. We're going to have to get to the next caller, okay?
Hello?
Yeah. Yes, Saab. We're going to have to. We're going to have to get to the next caller, bro.
All right. Appreciate you calling in, Saab.
Can I just say one thing first?
Quickly.
Why would you think San Antonio, and you never said your Eastern Conference team?
Yeah, I did. I said Toronto. I said San Antonio because they're my dark horse. They're just a dark horse. They can get hot at any time, and they have Popovich. So that's just my dark horse.
I'm going for the Clippers all the way, and I thought the Milwaukee Bucks could make it.
Okay, those are good choices. Those are good choices, but we're gonna have to.
All right, so
we gotta get
appreciate
to
it.
Okay. Have a good one.
All right, you
Thanks.
too.
All right, so we're gonna get to 661 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB. Six 661.
Oh, hello.
Hey, how you doing? Who's this?
I'm sorry. This is Trudy.
Trudy, nice to hear from
Trudy,
you.
what's up?
I was just thinking about people seem to have the idea. First, hello. I'm glad to see you guys seem to be doing all right. And thanks for letting me call in.
No problem.
Anyway, people seem to have the idea that they can support all these also ran candidates in the primaries and then go with Bernie in the general. It is just so incredibly vital that Bernie gets enough votes to overcome. I mean, the wording, they said that the superdelegates will not vote in the first round if it's uncontested.
Right.
So that we go in, Bernie wins enough delegates, and then the superdelegates get to vote because it's uncontested, because it's Bernie. And then the superdelegates get to throw in their votes, and they can change it.
Well, it depends. So if Bernie Sanders, or if any candidate wins the required amount to win the nomination, it's effectively over. It doesn't matter about the superdelegates at that time. Actually, it hasn't gotten to the second round.
I read the wording. It says if it's uncontested, they don't vote.
Yeah, but it actually hasn't gotten to the second round of voting.
I mean, they don't vote unless it's uncontested. So if somebody wins a majority of the regular delegates, then the superdelegates can vote in the first round.
But they couldn't take away Bernie's delegates. Understand? Like if Bernie Sanders has
Bernie gets 55% and Joe Biden gets 45%. Bernie's the winner until the superdelegates decide on Biden.
There's a number of delegates that you have to win if you want to become the Democratic nominee. That's why Trump won it so easily in the last election cycle in 2016.
Sure, but look at how close Bernie and Clinton were.
Right, but what I'm saying is though, neither one of them actually hit the, hold up, Trudy. Neither one of them hit the actual required number of delegates. If one of them did, the race would have been over. It doesn't matter what the superdelegates do.
Okay, one comes out the winner, but he just squeaks in.
You still can't take away the delegates.
He's still the winner. He's still the winner of the general delegates, but because he's uncontested, then the superdelegates can vote.
if the first round of voting doesn't come away.
No, they can vote in the first round if it's uncontested.
You want?
I looked up the wording.
That's not our I guess our understanding of the things.
Yeah, maybe you're seeing, you're reading it differently. Maybe you're interpreting it differently.
Well, that's the exact wording. They won't vote in the first round unless it's uncontested.
Unless it's uncontested.
Unless it's uncontested.
What does that actually mean?
Yeah,
what does that actually mean?
Exactly. I think that's maybe where we're kind of diverging here.
Well, I hope I'm wrong. But anyway, my point really is that Bernie's the only one. He's the only one that we can really trust, even partly will try his best to do what he says he wants to do. The rest of them, you don't know if it's lip service or not because they don't have a history, and the ones that do have a history prove they won't do it. So it's got to be Bernie. It's just got to.
Well, of the candidates who are believed to be contenders, I think it is about Bernie. You know, we support Barron Williamson and Andrew Yang. They're viewed as long shots, but again, as of the ones that are viewed as contenders, we are not supportive of Beto or Kamala, Cory Booker, and it looks like Elizabeth Warren, looks like she's going to pull some support for maybe some progressive issues, one at least. So I don't know that you can actually trust her at this point. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. There's too much room for doubt with the others.
Yeah.
Even they are saying all the right things. Like I listened to Andrew Yang, and Andrew. Anyway, he sounded great, but who is he?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll just hope for the best, and just get out there and support Bernie as
I just want everybody to keep that in mind that the primaries are vital for Bernie to win, or for whoever your candidate is.
Right.
But there's nobody but Bernie. All right, love you guys.
All right, thank you for calling in, Trudy. Good to hear your voice again.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, so we're gonna get to what is it? 360 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey, sweeties, how y'all doing? Taking advantage. No meeting tonight. How you doing, Mike and Will?
Good. How you doing,
Good to see you guys. I'm happy. I got some gardening done. Busted my back, but I'm joyful. Anyway, so y'all had some good coverage of good issues today. I don't know which one am I going to hit first. I understand Trudy is a fear. I can feel it. You know, you could just feel it through the wire.
Right.
Because they did us so wrong last time. And they do have a way in. If it's contested, they get to vote. If in the first vote it is not final, they don't have, nobody has enough votes. And I don't remember what the percentage is because there's so many dang people running, so the percentages work out different. But, they could really jam us up real hard on the second vote, on the second round. And I think that's what Biden's about. Kamala crashed, so they gave us Beto. Beto's gonna crash, but and then it's gonna be Warren. And let me tell you something. I, for one, because I get, I'm not mistaken for Native. I am obviously part Native. I'm a Caribbean person, so who was there. But that's what I most get. People most think I am. Especially, as it gets warmer and the sun hits me, until it's the end of summer, and then they think I'm black, and then they don't know what to think. But I, for one, as someone who gets, people, white people actually try to make nasty jokes and nasty comments about Native people to me, to make me feel, scared and defensive and threatened and shit, which is really funny because I'm a New Yorker. It's not a smart thing for West Coasters to do, but they do try. And I, for one, do not want to go through Pocahontas for a freaking 6 months coming out of Trump's mouth because of a white woman. I just don't. So she could just sit her ass down, shut the hell up, and back Bernie, and just shut the hell up. That's what you need. What you needed to do in 2016, and it sure as hell is what she needs to do now. Because she ain't doing a damn thing to help him. Not a damn thing.
New York
So
standing up.
I know, right? It would, I agree.
Sit the hell down.
It would look bad.
I can't handle.
It would look bad.
I cannot.
It would look bad if she didn't support Bernie. It definitely would look bad. It kind of like, kind of makes me think of kind of something Court brought up about her in regard to 2016, and not like standing up strong enough in regard to what the DNC did to Bernie Sanders. Now, she did come out and say it was rigged and then retracted it. So you see what I'm saying? She came out and said it was rigged and then retracted it. So that threw me off a bit. But yeah, it's going to look really suspicious if she doesn't win the nomination. And I do think that maybe the same thing will happen to her that happened to Kamala Harris and will most likely eventually happen to Beto. She might fall off. And so it's going to be interesting, not just who Elizabeth Warren endorses. It's going to be interesting to see if Bernie Sanders wins, if Kamala and Beto O'Rourke endorse him too. And we're going to have to leave it at that because we're running out of time. And we have
only got about 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
We got one more caller.
We got one more caller.
All right, night, dog.
We appreciate you calling in, V.
Love and hugs. I'll miss you Thursday. I'll be at a meeting where they'll be sabotaging Bernie. Okay, take care.
Oh, yeah, we still need that report, right?
I'm fighting on. Oh, I'm fighting on, dude. They are trying to kill the caucus in Washington State.
All right. Well, we look
They're
forward
trying
to
to
that.
kill. So the DNC is trying to kill the caucuses, and you know that that's where Bernie does best.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that because it's coming, honey. We're going to fight every minute.
That's right.
My attitude, to tell Trudy real quick and everybody, have the attitude we had with Obama. We just automatically assumed we were dealing with Hillary. We assumed we'd be cheated. We assumed that there'd be nasty games. We added 10% to everything we needed, and that was our goal, to cover for, you know, all the job stuff going on. So that's it. Get busy. Get work. Get working, babes.
All
Love
right,
and hugs. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too. Have a good night.
All right, we're going to get to 301 area code. You're the last caller of the night, and you got about a minute. Who is this and where are you calling from?
Hi, it's Rashid from PG Country.
Rashid, what's going on?
I just wanted to tell them, thank you guys for taking my call. Thank you guys for having this. I wanted to ask you, I got told by somebody saying that Elizabeth Warren was supporting and she signed her name onto some bill for reparations. I will, don't chime in right here because I know I got to look at my time. So I don't know what that was. I would like to know if you guys could look that up and post that. I follow you guys on Instagram or Facebook, on everything. So if you guys just post that, I'll see it. I still don't know what specific policies Bernie Sanders is pushing to close the racial wealth gap between Black and white citizens. And honestly, he's still a front runner. So I've been calling my local senators, representatives, to try to push them to sign on to H.R. 40, because right now, at the very least, that is the bill that's going to start the discussion. And again, the Congressional Black Caucus has not signed up for it because Miss Lee is the one who called.
Yeah. All right. So we lost Rashid.
But I think we got enough.
Yeah, we got enough to go on.
Yeah, we got enough to go on.
He was asking about the bill that Senator Warren was talking about. Because during that part where she was talking about reparations, I think she did address like a bill that she was supportive of, I think. Yeah. And she didn't mention what it was. I assumed that it was the H.R. 40, Conyers bill. But that's the House bill, I believe. That's what I assumed. I don't think she stated it one way or another. She just kind of left it in the air. To your point about Bernie Sanders, he hasn't. I don't think he has pointed to actual policy positions specifically going towards, I guess, the plight of Black people. Trying to redress the situations that occurred because of the institution of slavery and the aftermath of that. He has talked about what should happen, and that we have to address how, you know, that there are disparities, you know, if you're talking about healthcare and education, the economy, unemployment rate, that we have to address those with actual policy positions. I don't think he's been firm on what those would be. The only thing that he did mention when he talked about reparations and doing something about, I guess, what he sees as, you know, something has to be done about poverty and black poverty, is that 10-20-30 bill, and that was Clyburn's bill, which, like I said before, is not reparations, doesn't look anything like reparations, and actually would help way more white people than it would black people, which I have no problem with if you're talking about poverty, doing something about poverty. Poverty should be taken care of nationally. But if you're actually talking about doing something to close gaps within, you know, between white people and black people, I don't know of any actual policy positions of Bernie Sanders other than the ones that we know of that would help everybody.
Help everybody, yeah.
You have anything to add to that?
I mean, like I you know, it's almost like I would be kind of restating what we talked about with Kane X.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's the conversation has to go beyond reparations. It has to, in order for reparations to actually work. It has to go beyond reparations. It doesn't just need to focus on a particular demographic. There has to be a whole entire like kind of shift in the economic model that we currently have. It has to, for any kind of repair or reparations to actually have an impact.
Right.
I'm more worried about whether reparations have the impact, and that's like reparations in all its forms, whether it be in form of a check or in the form of, I guess, targeted programs aimed at a demographic. Beyond that, I don't think any of that stuff is going to work if capitalism remains in place in the way that it is now, globally, since we live in a global market. I just don't think that it would have the impact. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen, but I guess I'm just looking at the bigger picture. Maybe that's too lofty, but you know, I'm just kind of looking at the bigger picture here.
Rashid, we see you in the chat. You said you haven't seen her name on HR 40. Yeah. I don't know if that was a revelation that she made. I don't know if that was some sort of announcement. Again, she didn't specify what bill she's talking about, so that leaves everybody wondering. So that would be a follow-up question to ask her, though Tapper did not answer that follow-up question. Also, he says, see, my issue with Bernie is that when it comes to reparations, sweeping government policies are not good enough for Holocaust survivors, but somehow they're good enough for the descendants of slaves. Again, when we talk about this and we talk about Bernie Sanders, if Bernie Sanders actually seeks to redress slavery, some reparations, something that looks like reparations, again, it can be, many people have different ideas about what reparations looks like. But I think whatever reparations is in your definition, it has to be targeted to black people. It has to be targeted to descendants of slavery. And I say, and you know, and I say that, but I also say the black people too, because I mean, it would just make sense that, you know, those that were affected by the aftermath of slavery were slaves and former slaves and the descendants of slaves. But we see all across this country that black people are impacted by the policies of this country, you know, in a more, I guess, negative way than white people. So to that, it doesn't matter if you were if you are an African, or if you are, African descendant of slavery or not. You're black and you're impacted by it. So again, we just need some more clarification from Bernie Sanders. He says that he understands. He says that something must be done, but he has been a little bit unclear about it. Not just a little bit unclear. He has been unclear about it. Just like with everybody else, they talk. They say, yes, we need to address it. We need to do this. We need to do that. But when it actually comes down to what we actually need to do, something tangible that we can grasp onto, the only one that's actually speaking to that is Marianne Williamson. So But that would be, we did hear Elizabeth Warren talking about whatever bill she supported, but I have no idea what that bill is. I would just assume it is H.R. 40, but like you said, you haven't seen her name on it, so.
I saw a comment that I could not ignore from someone who has been characterized as a troll by a lot of our viewers and a lot of people who are engaged in the chat section. And that's, I think his name is Hi Carter. I don't know if you just actually Hi something, Garber, Hi Carver, whatever. Yeah. I don't know whether you trolling or you just being like purposefully ignorant, but I don't know how you can have eyes, ears, just basic senses, and think that or assert that there have been no indictments in regard to this Mueller investigation. You are either like deaf, dumb, and blind, or you just purposely not paying attention. Because last time I checked, Manafort was indicted, Gates was indicted, Flynn was indicted, Cohen was indicted, Pinedo was indicted, Alex Vanderswan was indicted, Constantine something, Kilminnick, he was indicted, Roger Stone was indicted, Sam Patton, he wasn't indicted, but he was handed over to the DOJ.
Papadopoulos?
To be indicted, yeah. He only had to serve a little bit of time because he lied to the FBI. Mm-hmm. All these people lied to the FBI at one point. Why do you lie? There's nothing to be, that you're not guilty about. So I don't know how you can say there's been no indictments when there clearly have been. You can go on the internet and it's free for you to look up. In a lot of cases, sometimes you have to pay for it, but you can look up court documents, who they're filed against, and all the motions involved in those cases. You can look those up, but you choose not to. And there's other separate stuff that that investigation that involves Trump. And that's like bank fraud, wire fraud, tax fraud, the Trump Insurance Foundation, self-dealing. There's all this stuff. He might be even in violation of the Emoluments Clause because the president can't financially benefit from his executive privilege. And him and his daughter are doing that right now because they both recently signed trademarks in China. Trump in Saudi Arabia for himself, and also in Russia. And there's like 20 other countries he has trademarks in. So he's benefiting from his executive privilege.
And that's not just in China what you're talking about, because that has to do with the homeland too, because of other like foreign diplomats that might come here and stay in the Trump hotel.
And yeah, they have. And
so they spending money with Trump businesses.
And if
that's a no-no.
Yeah, and with the recent sex spa, I guess raid with the Yang chick, she's been given access to a lot of businessmen through Trump. That's why you saw all those pictures she was taking with all these Republicans, because she was given access. You don't think that's kind of dangerous? Because he uses Mar-a-Lago as both his kind of like personal playground for business and diplomatic purposes. You don't think that those two things come in conflict? I don't know, man. You gotta be pretty, like, you sticking your head up your ass to kind of make comments like there's no indictments or there's nothing to be seen with this. You've got to be full of shit. I mean, I'm just wondering why, you know, somebody like that never calls in, but always is going off on everybody in the comment section. It's like that loudest man in the room kind of concept. The loudest man in the room is usually the wackest and the weakest. It usually has nothing to offer, nothing of value, and that's what it seems like. You're just begging for attention.
Well, he's saying Trump is still not indicted. That's what I was talking about. And look, that's true. Trump is not indicted. He is individual number one in some probe. Anyway.
You know who else is not indicted?
Who?
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, she's not indicted either.
Does that mean anything?
But her case is actually closed. Trump's is still open. And look, we're not saying that Trump is going to be indicted. We're saying that there are many links to Donald Trump where we see criminal actions. Somehow that has nothing to do with Donald Trump. He's just surrounded by the swamp. He was supposed to get rid of the swamp, but he inserted the swamp. And that has nothing to do with who he is as a politician or a person. He's not guilty of anything.
Yeah, nothing suspicious about the bank he received a loan from, the Deutsche Bank. Nothing suspicious about the son of former Supreme Court judge, what's his name, Kennedy, that stepped down.
Right.
Yeah, his son worked at that bank that Trump secured a loan from, and he suspiciously stepped down. Just you know what I'm saying? Just like hastily, I think.
Yeah.
in my mind, it was hasty. It just didn't make any sense. There's nothing to see there. It just so happens that his son worked at a bank that gave Donald Trump a loan.
The point here,
now he's not a Supreme Court justice.
The point here is that you are right. That Donald Trump has not been indicted, and we don't know that he will be. So that's why we don't actually talk about him like he's gonna be indicted. We just say that it's very interesting that all these people that are connected to him have been indicted. If he is indicted, we'll see. You said it many times before. The people that are actually keeping this in the news are Donald Trump and his supporters. That's the people that are keeping this in the news. You don't really see Democrats talking about Trump like, hey, yeah, he colluded with the Russians and he did. No, that's not their narrative whatsoever.
The only person that you can actually point to that's kind of like made it a thing is Rachel Maddow. But that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Well,
there's
like
many other things to talk about.
Yeah. There's like that kind of conversation has fallen off for the most part.
All right, but anyway, that is about the end of this program. We are thankful for everybody that joined us tonight, everybody that participated in the chat section and commented, gave us questions to answer. All of our callers as well. Man, we are getting a lot of callers now.
We had like 7.
We had Court, Kane X, Sav, Trudy, V, and Rashid. So what? That's what we had 6 callers, I believe.
7.
We had 7.
7. Mm-hmm.
Who did I miss?
Yeah. Court, K-Nex, Will, Sav, Rashid, Trudy,
Will.
and V. Not Will. That's right. We didn't. I thought that was somebody.
No, we didn't have Will.
No, it got to be 7. I felt like we had 7.
Was it 7?
No, I think we might have.
Yeah, I think we had 6. I think we had 6. But yeah, thank you for all of you that chose to call in. We love to hear your voices and your perspectives about things. Trudy, definitely understand your apprehension about what could be when it comes to the convention. Hopefully by that time, and hopefully early on, actually, many of these candidates will drop out. Because if there are 8 different candidates that make it, to the later primaries, nobody's going to reach that number. And that will be
a lot of people have kind of floated that conspiracy theory as the reason why there are so many Democratic candidates.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people have floated that, and I mean I don't
know. The thing to note here though is that the superdelegates have never changed an outcome before. We've heard that, and we do have to acknowledge that they've never changed an outcome before. Now, it is very corrupt, and it's definitely a rigged process for the media to actually broadcast who the superdelegates are supporting. That's definitely a rigged process because that's influential. So we'll see who, at the end of primary and caucus season, we'll see who's leading the way. And if it's Bernie leading the way but doesn't have the required number of delegates to actually capture the nomination without any of this voting or anything like that, then that will be something. But if he doesn't have enough, then we're gonna have to look at, are the superdelegates actually, for the first time in history, are they actually going to overturn the will of the people? That's gonna be interesting.
So we have 2 suggestions on maybe some travels we should, do.
I've seen that.
You see someone in the comment section, Leonessa Elitnig, says, y'all should go to Cory Booker's CNN town hall. That's going to be in South Carolina. Ask him a question. Woo! Oh, Lord.
Ask him a question.
Oh, gosh. That would be interesting. We will look that up. If it's not on the show day, we might go. Like if our live stream show date hadn't been the same day
next week
of Bernie Sanders rally, what was it? Charleston, North Charleston. We probably went to that too, but it was the same day of our show.
It's the 27th, which is Wednesday next week.
Also,
Orangeburg. Not too far.
That's not too far. That's like a 40-minute drive. Yeah. That's not too far away. Also, can't end the show without thanking our Super Chat contributors. We appreciate y'all. We have a common contributor, as you know, that made their donation. We appreciate that. That's Gaillard. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. No comment, but no comment needed, because you probably run out of things to say because you donate so much. And we got I can't pronounce that. Karak?
Yeah, Karak Norton.
Karak Norton donated. Appreciate that. It says, do not agree with everything, but thanks for the civil conversation. That's how we always keep it. We don't try to be like too unnecessarily edgy. You know what I'm saying? Unnecessarily edgy. You know what I'm saying? Just for effect. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For effect value. You know what I'm saying? We try to just stick to the facts.
And we welcome dissenting voices too.
Yeah.
We don't expect everybody to agree with everything that we say, but yeah, we would love to have a civil conversation.
Now, appreciate the donation, Schultzy. I don't know if we can fulfill your request, but we will read it off.
It would be very interesting.
It would be very interesting, though.
I'm not opposed to it.
I'm definitely not opposed
to it.
And he says, that would be awesome if you two covered CPAC next year, just to get your press credentials ahead of time of the event. But I hear it's easy to get in. Chapo Trap House podcast, worth listening to. Laugh my ass off. Yes, I did catch their podcast, and they kind of detailed what went on at CPAC, and it was funny. And it is interesting. I've always been a very adventurous person myself. I'm not sure if I can gain up enough care, gain that much. I don't know if that much interest is possible, or I don't know if my adventurous side would be that bold to go there, knowing good and well what I was getting into. It would probably be for more like comedic value and just shock value. That's what it would be about, comedic value and shock value, because you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be kind of fun to just ask questions and whatnot and, see what you get.
Yeah.
But
see, in that regard, we would have to be reporters in that regard. I mean, yes, we can challenge views, but we would have to be reporters. We wouldn't be commentators at that point. So that might be a little bit interesting. I mean, it's not something that we cannot do. It just, we would definitely expect to get talking points which we don't believe in which we find to be completely irrational and ridiculous. So, we might have to leave some of those alone. Just like, oh, that's your opinion? All right, thank you. I think and just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, see, I thought about that, and I think that I'm all for challenging people, but it all depends on what the goal is. It all depends on what I'm all for challenging people, but it's I think when people feel immediate pushback, they're less open about what they truly believe. I'm more interested at getting down to what people truly believe. Not that I wouldn't push back at all, but I want to get as much information as possible. I want them to lay out their worldview and who they are as much as possible, so I'll know what I'm dealing with. Usually the first inclination is to immediately challenge somebody, but as soon as you do that, they're probably going to shut down. So the best thing to do is to constantly engage with them and constantly ask questions so you can dig deep to get them to reveal more. Usually the more they reveal, I guess it'll show how flawed their ideas are. The more they reveal. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes that's self-evident. Sometimes you don't even gotta challenge it. The more and more you get people to talk, then the probability of them kind of contradicting themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Goes up.
Again, you would ask follow-up questions to kind of challenge that narrative, but you don't really want to attack the narrative.
Because what I've found to be more effective is put the ball in their court.
Yeah, let them talk, like you said.
If you make an assertion, I want you to kind of play it out in real time. It's kind of like a typical talking point concerning guns that people like to put out there is, the government's going to take our guns. I say, okay, since that is kind of your position of what could happen, I want you to explain it to me in a way that makes sense to you. Don't let it make sense. Like, don't worry about me. How's it playing out in your head? Like, the ball's in your court. Like, and most of the time, people cannot like put it all together.
No, because it's just a talking point.
It's just a talking point.
They likely got from somebody
else.
Like
I say, like, okay, how is that going to happen? Like, I'm not going to like deny it's going to happen since that's what you believe. Like, explain to me in real time how that looks. And they usually can't explain it. That's just one example.
All right, so we got another Super Chat contribution for the show, and that's from Calvin Darden. Said, good show. Thank you very much for watching, Calvin. Got some good comments in here. And you know, another recommendation to get a moderator, what is it, like a blue wrench or something like that? Is that what it is that we can get? Who wants to be a moderator?
Yeah, no.
Who wants to be a moderator? Because being a moderator, you know, you have to be here every show, you know? You'd have to be here every show, and you'll have to, you know, we don't really want to tone police. We don't, you know, curse words and stuff like that. We don't really want to block that out or anything like that. But some of the stuff that is offensive, like, I mean, if it's like deliberately offensive, then yeah, we want to, you know, like there's no room for that in the chat section. But just difference of opinions. Even if somebody is commenting, is like there's one, I think it's Carver that's saying, I think Carver's saying, what he said, I think he said, Candace Owens 2024. We don't want to block that out. We don't want to block that out. That might be annoying to some people.
That's funny. Yeah, we'll keep that up.
No, we'll keep that up. We don't want to block stuff like that out. When we were having that problem, maybe it was about a month ago, something like that, with there were a lot of anti-Semitic comments in the chat section. Stuff like that, we definitely want to block that type of stuff.
Most of the stuff we unblock. Because there are certain words that, like, it flags and it like blocks the comment from being seen. So we'll go through the chat during the show and unblock things. There are probably like 10 to 12 things that got blocked that we had to unblock, and it probably just I guess flags word like idiot or dummy, things like that, things that are perceived as insulting. But most of the time, we kind of unblock things. I don't think there's anything that was blocked that we missed. And yo, you done took it too far, High Carver. Yo, you done took it too far, bro. You done went out to Gene, dog. You get blocked for that shit. You get blocked for that, dog. Don't you ever?
Oh man.
Think I might be laid back now. Show up at your front door.
Oh man. But yeah, a lot of people saying, we need a couple moderators to cover each other. We do. Look, if anybody wants to be a moderator, like I said, get at us. You know our email. You can find our email very easily. You can go to our website. We do have a website still, though that thing has not been updated for a hot minute. For a hot minute. We would really love to do that too. We just haven't found the time to do it. But we always keep the domain active so that, we don't want to lose that, because at some point we will, reactivate it and start having people write articles. We might write articles when we free up some time, maybe get some more hands-on in this process. Just had another Super Chat contributor, and that's Rashid. Thank you very much. He's asking, would y'all cover the ADOS conference at Louisville, Kentucky, HBCU Simmons Collins on 10/4/19 and 10/5/19? That would be very interesting.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
That's a good, 6 months away or so?
Yeah. If you still definitely, you would probably hit us up.
Yeah.
Hit us up on our inbox or whatever on Facebook or Twitter and to remind us, because it is 6 months away. But yeah, we'd be interested in that.
No doubt. But all right, so let's get this off. Yeah, let's get out of here. So we'll be back Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Same time, same place.
Okay, Batman.
YouTube. That's right.
Batman.
Bam!
Wow. That's another show we used to watch after school. The old Batman. The old Batman. The corny.
The reruns of the old Batmans.
Pow! Zam! Zow! Wham!
Kapow!
And it always like will be some corny ass cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Will the dynamic duo survive this time?
You remember the after school
What will
specials?
be the fate of
that?
Batman?
You remember the after school specials?
Oh, those after school specials were corny as hell.
Boy, they had morals though.
They had morals.
They had you had to learn something from it. Like, you know, hey Timmy, you can't treat your friends like that.
Or no.
They don't appreciate
not
it.
just those, but the stupid like more you know commercials.
Oh yeah.
Like the like, where'd you get this from, son? Where'd you get this from? I learned it from watching you, Dad. I learned it from watching you. That doggone found the back box of weed.
Yeah.
That joke was so funny.
This is your brain.
This is your brain on drugs.
Any questions?
The frying egg.
Yeah.
Like.
Oh man. Didn't even bother to like actually specify what drugs.
What drugs? It's not like mugs are making that connection when they are kind of introduced to drugs. And usually it's not like, and they kind of like exaggerate how kids are introduced to it. It's not like they're approached by some ominous character in an alley.
Nah.
Hey kid, I got some stuff.
I got some candy for you.
Got some candies. That's how they kind of
this.
present. And actually, like, they did themselves a disservice by presenting it that way.
Yeah.
It's like that's not how it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of like you ease into it, but nobody's going to like reference back to those commercials in their mind and remember, oh snap, that frying egg.
Yeah, my brain is gonna be fried like an egg, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I better not do this.
Let me get out of here.
All right. So we're gonna get out of here. There's a few stories that I believe we might cover. Some, maybe some police brutality. There are a couple of, actually a couple videos that we might want to talk about.
Which is funny because we don't actually do it enough. There's so much there's always something.
Yeah, and actually, you know, well. Maybe we could do an update of an earlier story we did last week too, because we did the story about the woman, the two friends.
Yeah.
The woman, she had a shotgun pointed at her, and she called the police. They came, and then one particular officer arrived, and she ended up getting arrested because she was animated. I mean, she had just gotten a shotgun pointed at her, but actually that wasn't the real reason why she was animated. It was because she was frustrated with this particular cop that was treating them like they had did something wrong. Yeah. And so the video that we saw was from the friend, but now we've seen the video from the body cam footage.
So we have more context now.
Oh, there's more context.
There's more context.
There's more context.
It's actually worse.
Yeah, it's much worse.
It's much worse.
Oh, it's much worse. So,
yeah, we'll probably do that.
Yeah, we might update because that won't be long. We can just do a short update with that, but.
We ain't gonna block him. We're not gonna block him.
Who?
People, I guess, we won't block him. Like if
other
people can block him.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what a lot of people are suggesting, that if you want to block him and not see, that's fine. I would suggest y'all not block him.
He said we want rights, but ban Carver.
Yo, this is
that's funny.
Independent platform.
That is funny.
Like,
that is funny.
You don't have a right to watch this show, dog. You ain't got no right to watch this show. But anyway, like I think, like we won't block your comments. We ain't gonna block you. They can. I kind of suggest that y'all don't block him because like that's y'all's comedy, man. Like y'all can have the serious conversations, but y'all need somebody in there for comic relief, and that's what he does. So, nah, man. He's not that aggressive or that abrasive. It's just ridiculously ignorant. So that's funny. So keep him in there. He's the what is it? What is it called? Like when the village idiot.
Court jester?
He's a court, yeah. Court jester.
Anyway, though, appreciate everybody that makes this what this is. Patreon.com/LTMB. If you would like to support this channel, you can go there and, contribute whatever you can. If you would like to, definitely want to, just acknowledge our supporters, our patrons on patreon.com that support us every single month with their hard-earned money. Thank you very much. Again, we have designs, we have plans to upgrade some of this equipment, one particular piece of equipment, and that's the camera. So hopefully within the next few months we will get that done. But until the next time, everybody take care. Let's let the madness begin. We'll see you on Thursday. All right, peace out.